Reform of the Confederate Army of the Independent Galaxy, Part 1. On July 22, 21 BBY, the Confederation of Independent Systems concluded its second summit, marking a significant moment since its establishment on May 21, 22 BBY, on the planet Geonosis. This period has seen monumental shifts not only within the Galactic Republic and the Confederation itself, but across the entire Milky Way. Count Dooku's unwavering resolve during the summit took Tang Xiao by surprise. Given Darth Sidious's profound influence, Tang Xiao had anticipated some hesitation from Dooku. Instead, Dooku appeared to be charting a course deeper into the shadows, prompting Tang Xiao to reconsider the Count's potential schemes and hidden agendas. Dooku initiated sweeping reforms, effectively trading power for financial gain. He aimed to bolster the executive authority of the Confederation's core council, while demanding that corporate behemoths, including the Interstellar Banking Association and the Trade Federation, relinquish some of their interests. This marked a shift from purely commercial operations towards a more state-controlled model, a transformation that would undoubtedly take time. A key aspect of the reform was the abolition of private enterprise fleets, with the exception of essential defense units. All major offensive warships were to be integrated into the Confederate Navy, with financial compensation provided to the affected corporations. Additionally, the reform included the standardization of naval battleships and centralized procurement, streamlining the fleet and discontinuing orders for various outdated models like the Hydra-class battlecruisers and Generosity-class frigates. The new fleet composition was meticulously planned. Flagship, Conqueror-class battleship, Endless-class supercarrier. Main battleships, Behemoth-class battlecruisers, Shenyi-class destroyers, gun battle specialized, and Martha-class heavy missile cruisers. Support ships, Doomsday battlecruisers, Shenyi-class destroyers, electronic warfare specialized. Aircraft carrier, Shenyi-class destroyer, carrier-based hangar variant. Landing ships, C-9979 landing ships, Diamond-class transport cruisers, with Kessoff-class orbital assault landing ships being officially renamed post-refit. Small and medium-sized warships, Enforcer-class heavy destroyer, Guard-class light air defense destroyer, Xingzi-class maintenance drone carrier, and Blue Sky-class command cruiser. Fighters, Vulture droid fighter, Tri-fighter, Coyote droid bomber, Viking fighter. Escort battleship, Gray Horse-class drone aircraft carrier. This naval construction plan saw significant orders for the Interstellar Banking Association's Behemoth-class battlecruisers, the Trade Federation's Endless-class supercarriers, and Shenyi-class destroyers, with profits shared among the Fourth Group and these corporations. Notably, the Solarian-submitted battleship design received widespread acclaim, with military experts of the Confederation considering it to be decades ahead of any existing models, heralding a new era in battleship technology. Consequently, orders were placed for the Doomsday battlecruiser and the Enforcer-class heavy destroyer, making Dawn Planet the most significant beneficiary. Their contributions included the Masha-class heavy missile cruiser, Kessoff-class orbital assault landing ship, Guard-class light air defense destroyer, Xingzi-class maintenance drone carrier, Blue Sky-class command cruiser, Viking fighter, and the Gray Horse-class aircraft carrier. These products only represent the visible tip of the iceberg. When considering the contributions of the Fourth Group and the Solarians, it becomes evident that the Fourth Civilization secures at least half of the Confederate Navy's orders. The Confederate Navy of the Independent Galaxy showed a distinct preference for the Viking fighters over the outdated Ghost fighter. The Viking fighters, known for their robust air combat capabilities and ability to effectively target enemy warships, were seen as a perfect complement to the existing fleet, addressing the current shortcomings in flexibility and firepower of robot fighters. The Gray Horse-class aircraft carrier emerged as an unexpected choice. This cost-effective carrier was deemed by Confederate military experts as an ideal support vessel. Paired with the Guard-class light anti-aircraft destroyer, it could deploy Vulture robot fighters and Coyote robot bombers to fulfill a wide range of support missions at a low cost. With the inclusion of the Behemoths and Endless classes in secret collaborations, the Fourth Civilization essentially dominated the Confederate Navy's procurement for the independent galaxy. The Technology Alliance, meanwhile, faced no immediate concerns. Their expertise in manufacturing robot fighters and combat robots remained a critical asset. The challenge lay in modernizing their factories and docks to meet the evolving demands of warship production. The Enterprise Alliance managed to secure a portion of the orders, specifically for the Diamond-class transport cruiser. Originally a product of the Commercial Guild, the Diamond-class cruiser's fate changed following Shumai's confrontation with Count Dooku. Although not a cutting-edge warship, its simplicity, efficiency, and versatility as a multifunctional landing ship made it a valuable asset for mass production. Furthermore, the Enterprise Alliance's extensive network of robot factories ensured a steady stream of income from these orders. Once the naval battleship models were finalized, all factories under the Confederation of Independent Systems, including the largest shipyard at Port Palmont, began adjusting their operations to produce the necessary components for these battleships. This initiative was spearheaded by a newly established department within the Confederation, tasked with overseeing the warship manufacturing process. Dawn, the Solarians, and the Fourth Group received preferential treatment in this arrangement. Despite the Confederate military experts' view that their mass-produced Cole-class battlecruisers and Sova-class aircraft carriers were becoming obsolete, these vessels were still considered capable of effectively challenging the Republic fleet on the battlefield. This acknowledgement allowed them to maintain their production of Cole and Sova classes while gradually transitioning to newer models. For the latest updates, please remember to visit the official website of the Apex Novel Network. Vol 2, Chapter 1085, Reform of the Independent Galaxy Confederate Army, Part 2. Tang Xiao and his team had long been planning a significant transformation for the Independent Galaxy Confederate Army. The focus was on the three main components of their fleet: battleships, drones, and fighter jets. This initiative was timely, especially since a considerable number of old battleships had been lost in the Battle of the Eliadu system. With the Solarians having assimilated much of the Amarr Empire's battleship technology from Eve, the Fourth Civilization now possessed the capability to fully upgrade to the Amarr Empire's battleship models. The Disaster-class and Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers, prototypes of this new fleet, had completed their design phase and were ready for sea trials. However, these developments were kept confidential within the Confederation of Independent Galaxies, with plans to unveil them later. Meanwhile, the Confederation of Independent Systems had finalized the naval battleship model and unified production, but had no immediate plans for further military reform. This decision was strategic, as the Confederate Army was expected to play a crucial role in resisting the Galactic Republic's invasion for at least the next 6 months. Moreover, implementing too many reforms at once could lead to significant internal disruption. Simultaneously, the political structure of the Confederacy was undergoing changes, with the establishment of new departments to manage and coordinate affairs across Confederate territories. A critical aspect of this transformation was the reform of the widely despised war tax policy. Previously, all planets were required to pay war taxes in monetary form, a demand strictly enforced by corporate giants for profit. Planets unable to pay in cash were forced into mortgaging their resources and industries to these corporations at rates significantly below market value, essentially leading to plunder. Moreover, these corporate giants had not supported the planet's decisions to go to war or to contribute resources and personnel to the Confederation's limited administrative agencies. Essentially, the war against the Galactic Republic was waged by these corporations, exploiting planetary resources and wealth to support their endeavors. This model of warfare was not only socially and ethically reprehensible, but also counterproductive, driving populations to desperation. In response, the Confederation of Independent Systems introduced reforms to the war tax policy. While not abolishing the tax, the Confederation allowed for direct mortgage payments with materials or factory production capacities. A notary office was established to standardize prices and prevent exploitation by unscrupulous corporations. Additionally, planets joining the Confederation were permitted to contribute troops as a way to offset part of their war tax obligations. This initiative was supported by the establishment of non-commissioned officer schools across many planets, aimed at training competent soldiers. This move benefited the Fourth Civilization, which had amassed a wealth of officer resources through its pioneering use of natural person armies. Many retired soldiers became instructors at these schools, further extending the Fourth Civilization's influence. These reforms effectively reduced war taxes, increased troop contributions, and decreased the cost of war by curtailing the profits of corporate giants. To compensate these corporations, the Confederation proposed a trade-off: more political power in exchange for financial contributions. This approach aimed to balance the interests of all parties involved, ensuring a more equitable and sustainable model for future conflicts. In an effort to address the pressing issues of corporate dominance, Tang Xiao, alongside Count Dooku, initiated a military reform aimed at diminishing the power of the corporate giants, with the ultimate goal of nationalizing them. The Commercial Guild, led by Shu Mai, was the first to vehemently oppose these reforms. Given its lack of core competitiveness and reliance on outsourcing and stolen designs for its operations, the guild was particularly vulnerable to these changes. Unlike other corporate entities that possessed some means of adaptation, the Commercial Guild faced a dire situation with no apparent way out. Shumai's reaction was predictably fierce. The guild's operations, which barely managed to produce a disobedient-class light destroyer, were directly threatened by the reform, stripping them of their only advantage. Shu Mai, known for his lack of foresight and poor leadership, could not accept such a drastic shift, nor could the profit-driven members of the Commercial Guild. Before the summit concluded, Shu Mai prematurely exited and threatened to withdraw the Commercial Guild from the Confederation of Independent Systems and rejoin the Galactic Republic if the reforms were not retracted. However, this was an empty threat, as Tang Xiao and Count Dooku had already set their plans in motion, unbeknownst to Shu Mai, until it was too late. Shortly after Shu Mai's return to planet Felucia, the Freedak Volunteer Engineering Group, initially part of the Commercial Guild, announced its withdrawal. This group, established by the Quarren Isolation Alliance after defecting from Mon Calamari, had settled on the planet Parman under the Guild's auspices. In exchange for their allegiance and stolen battleship designs, they received significant investments, becoming the largest shipbuilding company within the Confederation of Independent Systems. However, the political landscape shifted following the civil war on Dak, Mon Calamari. With Prince Li Char stepping down and Nosori of the Quarren assuming leadership, the Quarren Isolation Alliance gained political legitimacy. This change rendered the alliance's existence unnecessary, except as a facade to maintain a pro-Confederate stance on Dak. This strategic withdrawal by the Freedak Volunteer Engineering Group, coupled with the political shifts on Dak, exemplified the intricate planning and execution by Tang Xiao and Count Dooku. Their efforts not only undermined Shu Mai's position, but also signaled the beginning of a broader campaign to dismantle the power of the corporate giants, paving the way for a more equitable and nationalized system. What does this have to do with your business? Exactly. The Quarren Isolation Alliance no longer requires the support of the Business Guild. They are no longer an exiled organization unrecognized by their home planet. Please remember to visit the Apex Novel Network for the fastest updates on the mobile version. The dialogue above, seemingly part of a larger narrative, hints at a complex interplay of political alliances and independence movements within a fictional universe. To enhance the quality of the English and improve the overall presentation, the following adjustments have been made. 1. Grammatical and punctuation corrections. Minor errors have been corrected for clarity. 2. Sentence structure improvement. The structure has been slightly modified for better readability. 3. Descriptive detail enhancement. While the original text does not provide much context for enhancement, the mention of the Quarren Isolation Alliance and the Business Guild hints at a rich backstory that could be further developed in the surrounding narrative. 4. Consistency and logic in actions and dialogues. The dialogue has been kept concise and to the point, reflecting a decisive break from a previous alliance. Removal of redundant phrases. The promotional reminder about the book's first domain name and the update website has been streamlined for relevance. 6. Clarification of ambiguous parts. The statement now clearly communicates the Quarren Isolation Alliance's newfound independence and disassociation from the Business Guild. 7. Formatting adjustments. The text has been organized into a more structured format for easier reading. This revision aims to maintain the essence of the original text while enhancing its readability and coherence for English-speaking audiences. Vol. 2, Chapter 1086, Slaughtering the Fat Sheep. Suddenly, a Solarian fleet appeared on the planet of Felucia, comprising 10 Dominion-class drone carriers, 5 Doomsday-class battlecruisers, and 20 Enforcer-class heavy destroyers. This formidable presence was enough to deter any potential aggressors. However, the fleet made no further moves, showing no intention of blockading the planet or interfering with the traffic of spaceships arriving and departing. Shumai, in a bid to understand the fleet's intentions, sent a representative to negotiate with the Solarian commanders, but to no avail. With no response from the fleet, Shumai had no choice but to prepare for any emergency. The Commercial Guild did possess fleets, but they were scattered, with some units having been destroyed by the Galactic Republic defenders in the Battle of the Daron system. Shumai hesitated to recall her fleets, fearing that such a move would be seen as a direct challenge to the Confederation of Independent Systems. Given that Felucia was under Confederate control and lacked a direct hyperspace route to Galactic Republic territories, any confrontation with Confederate forces would likely end in disaster. Unwilling to accept defeat, Shumai reached out to the supercorporate giants such as the Interstellar Banking Association, the Trade Union, the Enterprise Alliance, and the Technology Alliance, seeking assistance. However, her pleas fell on deaf ears. In desperation, she contacted the Galactic Republic, which responded positively but was too far away to offer immediate help. The Republic itself was reeling from the destruction of the clone factory on Camino and lacked the resources to extend its reach to Felucia, located in a remote corner of the galaxy. The original plan had been for the Galactic Republic to launch an assault on Felucia as part of their expansion to the galaxy's outer rim. However, with the ongoing conflict in the DeLong galaxy at the edge of the inner ring, and an entire middle ring separating the two sides, such an operation was now impossible. The intelligence department of the Galactic Republic played a dual role. On one hand, they reassured Shumai, advising her not to provoke Count Dooku, while on the other, they prepared for war. They promised Shumai trade privileges, exemptions, and tax benefits if she defected from the Confederation of Independent Systems to join the Republic. Despite these enticing offers, Shumai was skeptical of these empty checks and continued to secretly negotiate with the Republic while publicly maintaining her allegiance to the Confederation, hoping to navigate a path back to her former position. Unbeknownst to Shumai, she had already been marked as a target by Tang Xiao and Count Dooku. In their eyes, she was nothing more than a lamb ready for slaughter. This situation mirrored the early days of the Galactic Empire, where appeasing the appetites of vested interests with benefits was a necessary evil to facilitate military reform. However, balancing and compensating for these reforms was a complex task, touching upon the interests of supercorporate giants like the Interstellar Banking Association and the Trade Union. The Freemasonry Alliance also played a role, but their influence alone was not enough to ensure a simple resolution. In the grand scheme of things, grand ideals often dissipate like clouds, leaving only tangible interests to ground us. The decision-making within corporate giants is far from straightforward, entangled as it is with various factions and competing interests. Thus, targeting a commercial guild as a lucrative opportunity might seem like an optimal strategy. However, the implications of such an action, especially when it involves one of the top 5 corporate giants during the formation of the Confederation of Independent Systems, are complex. What message does this send to the other giants? Could this incite fear or even retaliation among them? Politics, economics, and vested interests are intricately woven together, creating a tapestry of strategy that could fill libraries. Tang Xiao finds himself navigating this labyrinth of political intrigue within the Confederation of Independent Systems, a task of unimaginable complexity. For instance, among the 12 core members of the Confederation alone, the web of alliances is so dense that they could form at least 30 distinct factions. The decision to target and potentially dismantle a commercial guild requires a delicate balance of considerations. Following the Confederation's announcement of military reforms, the commercial guilds found themselves sidelined, their investments in factories and shipyards becoming liabilities as managers and technicians began to resign or switch careers. In response, the commercial guilds launched a counter-strategy. They significantly increased the wages and benefits of their core employees, initiated new projects, and established departments in industries unrelated to the war effort. Furthermore, they embarked on a campaign of hostile takeovers of small and medium-sized enterprises within the Confederation, often paying a premium and thereby creating fiscal deficits and market disruptions. In an attempt to inflate their market value, the commercial guilds issued new equity in large quantities while repurchasing existing shares at inflated prices, creating a speculative bubble. However, Tang Xiao and his allies, supported by a cadre of senior actuaries from the Interstellar Banking Association, devised their own strategy. They circumvented the equity market, focusing their efforts on influencing the lower-level employees and targeting planets under the commercial guild's control. Count Dooku, seizing the opportunity, placed the planet Sarest under the jurisdiction of the planet Dawn, citing support for the battle in the Eliadu galaxy. Sarest, a major industrial planet within the commercial guild, found itself in a precarious position after prolonged conflict with Tarkin's 18th Army. The arrival of the Dawnstar Army offered a reprieve and an opportunity to align with a more powerful ally. Consequently, Sarest declared its withdrawal from the commercial guild, transferring its debts to the planet Dawn. For Tang Xiao, the decision to accept Sarest's debts is not about the ability to repay, but rather a strategic move in the broader game of interstellar politics and economics. The unfolding events underscore the complexity of alliances and the continuous jockeying for power within the Confederation of Independent Systems. Vol. 2, Chapter 1087, Extreme Measures. After the planet of Sarester was transferred to the planet of Dawn, a significant uprising erupted on Castel, the commercial guild's most crucial forging world. Castel, a planet abundant in resources, caught the commercial guild's attention and was swiftly acquired at a bargain price by exploiting its situation. The commercial guild then transformed the inhabitants into slaves, ensuring only their most basic needs were met while exploiting them ruthlessly. They established numerous mines and factories, forcing the populace to toil day and night. This exploitation led to the planet's environmental devastation and the collapse of its inhabitants' livelihoods, yet it significantly increased the planet's industrial output, supporting the commercial guild's industrial production capacity during the war. The people of planet Castel harbored deep-seated hatred for the commercial guild. Under Tang Xiao's deliberate provocation, a large-scale uprising and strike erupted almost instantly. Arms dealer Yuri Orlov also played a role in secret, supplying a vast array of weapons to Castel's entrepreneurs, enabling them to confront the commercial guild's robot garrison. The situation on the planet quickly spiraled out of control. In several industrial cities, enraged workers, armed and undeterred by the prospect of casualties, breached the robots' defense lines. They stormed the city hall, capturing and publicly humiliating the corpulent business guild officials. The turmoil on two critical industrial worlds plunged Shumai into chaos. She approached Count Dooku once more, offering to support the Confederacy's military reform in exchange for retaining a portion of the profits for the commercial guild and reclaiming the industrial worlds of Sarest and Castel. Count Dooku, however, dismissed her requests coldly and ruthlessly, citing the choice of the people on these planets as his pretext. Meanwhile, the Confederate Army of the Independent Systems reform process became unstoppable. All factories and production lines were mandated to undergo adjustments and remodeling to meet unified specifications. At this juncture, the commercial guild found itself too strained to undertake such tasks. Consequently, Count Dooku ordered the supervision of all enterprises and factories under the commercial guild. A multitude of supervisors was dispatched to these facilities to prevent any subversive activities and, under the guise of transformation, began to systematically undermine the commercial guild's capital. Shortly thereafter, the Sothrub Company, the commercial guild's last ally, announced its compliance with the Confederation of Independent Systems' military reform conditions following Sarast's defection. It began to integrate its factories, leaving Shumai bereft of her main strength in a matter of days. Although the commercial guild still possessed considerable power, with many companies and industries under its banner, these assets no longer wielded any political influence. As the Confederation of Independent Systems extended its oversight to more factories, these industries, though nominally part of the commercial guild's assets, effectively became properties of the Confederation. Concurrently, other corporate giants entered the fray, initiating the systematic acquisition of industries under the commercial guild. Despite the commercial guild's numerous countermeasures, the acquisition process proceeded smoothly. On the outskirts of Dawn Planet, aboard the Mothership Glory in the governor's office, Tang Xiao addressed a figure in the holographic projection before him with a calm demeanor. "I have a task for you. Help me eliminate someone." The individual on the other end of the holographic projection was a Duro man, distinguished by his blue skin and red eyes. Wearing a windbreaker and a wide-brimmed hat, he is the renowned bounty hunter, Cade Bane. It's quite rare to be sought after by the governor of Dawn Planet. Rumors in the underworld suggest you possess several powers, enabling you to execute assassination missions of varying complexities, Cade Bane remarked with a cold tone. "My abilities are not meant to be showcased there," Tang Xiao replied. "What could possibly make the governor so wary?" Cade Bane chuckled. "Hut space," Tang Xiao stated simply. "Hut space. You're asking me to eliminate a hut? The cost of such a task is substantial, though I'm certain your funds don't match up," Cade Bane said, skepticism lacing his voice. Sorg Vosadi Bejan from the hut, Tang Xiao named his target. Cade Bane sneered. "Ah, the business guild's intermediary. Frankly, you might as well add another 2 million to the bounty, and I'll take out Shumai for you." Given the current turmoil, Shumai's value on the black market has plummeted by 15%. Shumai's survival currently serves a greater purpose than her death, Tang Xiao explained. "The details are not of your concern." "Very well, I accept the job," Cade Bane said, bowing casually as a form of salute. "Should you ever decide Shumai's time has come, remember to seek me out." He laughed heartily before his projection vanished. At that moment, another individual seated on the sofa across from Tang Xiao spoke up, his voice deep. "If it's about eliminating Begin, my men are also capable. The Vasadi family, despite its ancient lineage, has lost its former glory and wouldn't pose a challenge." The speaker was a strikingly handsome man of Eastern descent, his glasses lending him a gentle appearance. Yet, the sharpness in his gaze betrayed a formidable spirit. This was Ni Yongxiao, a gang leader backed by the Fourth Civilization and the Minister of Secret Intelligence in the underworld. Over a decade, Ni Yongxiao had grown more adept and seasoned. Despite maintaining a clean-shaven look, the signs of age on his face added a layer of distinction. Tang Xiao glanced at him. Cade Bane and his bounty hunter gang leave no room for excuses in their operations. While the cause of Becon's demise will be known, certain matters require a veil of secrecy. My current objective is to clip Shumai's wings while ensuring her survival as a facade. This task is imperative. Understood. You have the final say in these matters. But you sought me out for a reason. What do you need? Ni Yongxiao inquired. The matter still concerns hut space, Tang Xiao began. The Basadi and Desiligic families are embroiled in a covert war, plunging hut space into chaos. The potential for profit is slim, given both sides' heavy investments. The Galactic Republic is poised for a major counterattack following their victory in the Daron system. With the Kaminoan clone factory destroyed, leveraging the remaining clone soldiers to inflict maximum damage is their best strategy, Tang Xiao explained. Meanwhile, the Confederation of Independent Systems is in the midst of an armament overhaul. The Huts won't commit a fleet to battle, Ni Yongxiao stated. Correct, but they can deny passage through Hut space to both the Galactic Republic and the Confederation of Independent Galaxies fleets. Our fleet resources are limited as it is. Therefore, Tang Xiao paused, walking behind Tang Xiao and placing a hand on his shoulder. The internal conflict within Hut space must also come to an end. The victors will be neither the Basadi nor the Desiligic family. Please remember the first domain name of this book. For the fastest updates, visit the Apex Novel Network's mobile site. Volume 2, Chapter 1088, Desperate Galactic Republic, Part 1. In the heart of the Galactic Republic, Coruscant stands as the bustling capital, home to the Republic's supreme strategic command. Master Windu, with mechanical components integrated into his abdomen and spine, moved swiftly through the corridors of the command center. This facility, a hive of activity even on the quietest days, was now teeming with over 1 million personnel. They orchestrated the Republic's military efforts across the galaxy, from the smallest skirmishes to the largest battles. The security here was unparalleled, surpassing even that of the Republic capital, though it was commonly acknowledged that the Jedi Temple's defenses, though non-military, were far more formidable. Upon entering the headquarters, Master Windu was promptly greeted by several high-ranking generals. They saluted him and relayed that Speaker Palpatine, along with Kaminoan Prime Minister Rama Su, awaited him in the conference room. The mention of Palpatine caused a flicker of concern to cross Master Windu's face, but he proceeded without hesitation. The conference room was dominated by a vast holographic star map, its surface blighted by numerous red flashes indicating ongoing conflicts throughout the galaxy. These were particularly dense in the galaxy's western, northern, and central regions. The map, though spherical, was navigated through conventional directional terms for ease of discussion. Master Windu studied the map in silence until Palpatine's voice broke the stillness, outlining the Republic's current crises, including the battles in the Eliadu system, the Antares Drawn system, and the escalating Geth problem. These, Palpatine emphasized, were existential threats to the Republic. Turning to face Palpatine, Master Windu searched the speaker's eyes for any sign of the dark side, especially given the rumors of Palpatine's Sith identity. Yet, all he found was a disarming calmness, which only deepened his doubts about the veracity of those rumors. Despite Yoda's warnings and the evidence suggesting the existence of another Sith Lord, Palpatine's demeanor offered no clues. Addressing Palpatine directly, Master Windu inquired about his thoughts on the matter. Palpatine, with a hint of amusement, deflected the question to Prime Minister Rama Su, who then detailed the devastating impact of a recent separatist raid on Kamino. Nearly a quarter of Tipoca City was destroyed, along with significant damage to 3 other cities and over 4 million casualties. The presence of separatist forces in Kamino's oceans remained a threat, with Trident-class ships and AQ-series droids yet to be eliminated. Rama Su lamented the blow to his political standing, foreseeing his defeat in the upcoming election. He also reported substantial losses among the clone troopers, highlighting the dire situation facing the Republic. This chapter sets the stage for a critical moment in the Galactic Republic's history, underscoring the tension between the visible and hidden threats it faces. Master Windu's interactions with Palpatine and Rama Su underscore the complex web of political and military challenges that lie ahead. The loss was staggering. 170,000 clone trainers and minor clones had fallen in battle, leaving only 4,000 clone troopers available for the Republic's next deployment. Master Windu, visibly troubled, expressed his concern. This falls far short of what we need for the war effort. Palpatine, with a heavy sigh, added, "This is a dire crisis, Master Windu. To be frank, my frustration knows no bounds. I'm at a loss on how to proceed with the war. Are we truly at a point where we must consider making peace and recognizing the so-called Confederation of Independent Galaxies they've established?" Rama Su, the Kaminoan in charge of the cloning facilities, seemed unaffected by the emotional weight of the situation, focusing solely on delivering his report. Following Master Cypher Dias's instructions, the first batch of factories built 12 years ago, along with the second-generation facilities that have been expanded in recent years, have been nearly obliterated, losing all production capabilities. The clone human embryo bank has also suffered. Out of 40 million embryos, only about 17 million are salvageable, and even these must be scrutinized to ensure they are viable. He activated a hologram, displaying the cross-section of a massive underwater structure. This represents the third-generation clone factory, initiated under the Arms Renewal Act. Construction began last year, with funding secured by the Galactic Republic. This facility was designed to produce clones that could mature within a year, albeit with a significantly reduced lifespan of 5 to 10 years. The third-generation factory, nestled at the bottom of the sea and protected by a robust defense layer, was spared during the Separatist raid. With minor repairs, it can resume production. However, its output will inevitably be less than that of the first and second-generation factories. Ramasu then addressed a more pressing issue to Master Windu. The DNA data has been stolen. The Separatists, through reverse engineering, could potentially master our modifications to the DNA Primarch and develop targeted genetic weapons against our clone soldiers. Palpatine, shaking his head in despair, confessed to Master Windu, "So, you ask for my thoughts. Master Windu, I am at a loss. Without the clone army, we stand no chance in this war." Master Windu was taken aback by Palpatine's admission, which left him speechless and without a counter-argument. Palpatine's, or rather Darth Sidious's, strategic withdrawal from advocating for the war effort placed Master Windu in a deeply conflicted position. Please note, the original text appears to reference a mix of elements from the Star Wars universe and might have been intended for a different context. The adjustments made aim to clarify and enhance the narrative while correcting grammatical and structural issues. Volume 2, Chapter 189, Desperate Galactic Republic, Part 2. "We will definitely win," Master Windu declared, though the words left him feeling deeply uncomfortable. It was as if by saying them, he was being forced into a corner, aligning himself against a Sith Lord, and then having to find solace in his own reassurances. Taking a deep breath, Master Windu fortified his resolve with a mental bastion named Everything for the Republic, before continuing, "In the Battle of the Delong Galaxy, we have decimated a significant number of Separatist warships. Our mobile fleet now holds an absolute advantage. The war is far from over, and the victor is yet to be decided." Palpatine, however, shook his head in disagreement. "Even if we defeat the Separatist fleet, what then? We all know that in the model sector, Master Yoda should have emerged victorious." Master Windu's expression darkened, understanding the direction Palpatine was steering the conversation. "We lack the manpower to occupy those planets. Despite the Military Creation Act enabling us to recruit billions of soldiers, these troops are only capable of defending their respective planets. They stand no chance in an offensive battle against the droid army." Palpatine seized this moment to drive his point home. The disruption in the supply of clone troopers is a fatal blow to our efforts. I cannot see a path to victory. Now, we have 2.4 million clone soldiers deployed on the front lines. If utilized effectively, we can still push the front to the outer ring sectors. Maintaining the unity of the Galactic Republic and refusing to acknowledge the Separatist regime should be our unwavering stance, Master Windu argued. In the model sector, Master Yoda has won every battle, yet he was forced to retreat, losing many troops in the process. Palpatine countered. "The Separatists exploit our compassion, leading to the unnecessary sacrifice of our soldiers. This cannot continue." He continued, "Billions have perished from starvation on Eriadu due to the Separatist blockade. Billions. That's the population of a medium-sized planet left to starve. Is this acceptable?" "So you've reached a conclusion, haven't you, Your Excellency the Speaker?" Master Windu asked, his tone grave. "Orbital bombing of military targets with restrictions should be permitted. It's the most effective strategy I can conceive," Palpatine admitted calmly. "Orbital bombing beyond the designated power will cause irreversible damage to the planet's atmosphere," Master Windu pointed out coldly. "We cannot win this war cleanly. I believe you understand this," Palpatine stated. "I plan to propose a bill soon that will relax the restrictions on orbital bombing by frontline fleets. To ensure the bombings remain within safe limits, I propose that a Jedi Knight be present to oversee and ensure the bombardment does not exceed the threshold." "What did you say? You want Jedi Knights to authorize orbital bombardments?" Master Windu exclaimed, barely containing his fury. "It would be acceptable for the Republic Navy's admiral to issue such orders," Palpatine suggested with a slight smile. Moreover, if the Jedi Knight commanding the battle deems it unnecessary, then orbital bombing can be avoided altogether. The Jedi Order has always been trusted implicitly. The decision rests with you. Master Windu, struggling to suppress his anger, gritted his teeth and asked, "So are you confident this bill will pass, Your Excellency Speaker? How much influence do you wield over the Parliament?" "According to surveys, I should secure a majority of votes for this motion," Palpatine replied, maintaining his amiable demeanor. "As for influence, that's not the correct term. I simply have a pure heart and am fortunate enough to have the support of many parliamentarians for my vision." "Then, after the war concludes, how can you, wielding such authority, guarantee," Master Windu asked with a hint of aggression in his voice, "do you promise to return power to the people?" "We are still a long way from victory, Master Windu, a very long way," Palpatine responded with a stern tone. "This war can only end with the victory of the Galactic Republic. I believe that under the leadership of the Jedi Order, this day will come. I will provide all the support I can in the Council, and then, of course, I will relinquish all my powers in the Galactic Republic Council." Master Windu scrutinized Palpatine, searching his eyes for any sign of deceit. Palpatine, however, met his gaze calmly, without a trace of fear or guilt. Frustrated and unable to penetrate Palpatine's facade, Master Windu turned sharply and exited the control center. On his way out, his frustration manifested physically as he pushed aside a civilian who inadvertently blocked his path, causing the person to fall to the ground. Windu's pace quickened, fueled by a mix of anger and an unsettling sense of despair. Meanwhile, at the Jedi Temple, Master Yoda sensed the turmoil in Master Windu's heart. With a heavy heart, he stood up and gazed in the direction of the Supreme Strategic Command Building. Clutching his chest, he shook his head slowly and murmured to himself, "The last hope. Maybe you are, Obi-Wan Kenobi." At the same time, the Confederation of Independent Systems was indulging in a fleeting, frenzied feast of power. Following the departure of the South Rob Company, Planet Castell, Planet Sarest, and the Freedak Volunteer Engineering Corps from the Business Guild, the once thriving corporate giant faced an abrupt decline. The majority of its factories fell under the control of the Confederation of Independent Systems, and its attempt to resist takeover through a poison pill strategy only plunged its operations into further chaos. This strategy, designed to deter hostile takeovers by deliberately increasing the company's liabilities and acquisition costs, ultimately doomed the Business Guild to lose its status as a top corporate entity. However, figures like Tang Xiao, Count Dooku, Sandhill, and Newt Gunley had no intention of showing mercy. The assassination of Hut Sorg-Vasadi Biggin in his Nashada lair marked the beginning of their ruthless campaign. The assassin left behind no evidence except for a small hole in Begin's chest and his mutilated body. Shumai and Begin had long collaborated, engaging in extensive slave trading and black market smuggling to amass wealth and secure the support of the Hutts. With Begin's death, those who had once circled around them sprang into action, initiating a brutal campaign to dismantle the business guilds. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in the galaxy's tumultuous history, one that would be remembered for the dramatic shifts in power and the emergence of new alliances and rivalries. Volume 2, Chapter Thes 90, The Onset of War. The latest chapter in the saga of the fourth natural disaster of Star Wars unfolds with the Dawn Planet taking the initiative. Seizing the opportunity presented by the shifting dynamics of the battlefield in the Eliadu galaxy, Dawn Planet brought the industrial world of Sarest under its jurisdiction within the Western Territory Theater. Sarest had long aspired to align itself with the formidable and proximate Dawn Planet, a far more appealing ally than the distant commercial guilds on planet Felucia. The rationale was clear. Following the conclusion of the conflict in the Eliadu galaxy, with Dawn Planet emerging victorious, the task of reconstructing the ravaged Eliadu would inevitably fall to Sarest. This was not just any assignment, it was a monumental opportunity to rebuild an entire planet, a prospect that Sarest had eagerly anticipated. Subsequently, the fourth faction set its sights on the South Rob Company, an arms dealer originating from Selst. The company quickly found common ground with the faction, signing strategic cooperation agreements with both the fourth faction and the Trade Alliance, thus becoming a collaborative entity within the Trade Alliance. It's important to note that trade alliances, technology coalitions, corporate unions, and business guilds represent conglomerates of trust, not merely single entities. Hence, joining a trade alliance meant becoming a member of a larger collective, not a subordinate. The fourth faction, under the strategic direction and tacit approval of Tang Xiao, was evolving into a formidable conglomerate. Companies within this faction, such as Tai Lun Heavy Industries, Higra Aerospace Group, and United Mining Group, had united under Tang Xiao's leadership, making the fourth faction akin to a semi-state enterprise within the fourth civilization. These companies shared a common foundation. Their fortunes were built upon the technology derived from the Mothership database. In a parallel development, the Quarren Isolation Alliance reclaimed the Freedak Volunteer Engineering Corps, marking the return of the largest warship manufacturing group to the Quarren from the Confederation of Independent Systems. Despite lacking official recognition from the government of Dak Planet, in practice, Dak Planet had already engaged in trade with the Confederation through them. An order from Dawn Planet for 500 sets of overpressure hulls exemplified this relationship. With the reclamation of the Freedak Corps, the Quarren Isolation Alliance's strength was on the rise. Meanwhile, the planet Castel underwent a significant transformation. The Interstellar Banking Association, led by Chairman Sandhill, acquired Castel and immediately emancipated all slaves on the planet. They then established a new governance model through formal investment and management. Despite the initial uprising on Castel, the planet faced imminent financial ruin, material shortages, and a severely disrupted industrial, civilian, and agricultural infrastructure. Reluctantly, they accepted the acquisition by the Interstellar Banking Association, which had conveniently sidestepped the commercial guild by merely paying nominal escrow fees. Furthermore, any industry under the commercial guild's control that experienced turmoil or rebellion was swiftly acquired by corporate giants at bargain prices, citing loss of control. This series of acquisitions ultimately compelled the commercial guild to abandon their scorched earth tactics, admit defeat, and surrender their fleets, thereby preserving their remaining assets. This marked a pivotal moment in the storm that was brewing across the galaxy, signaling the advance of a war that would reshape the fate of many worlds. In the midst of ongoing galactic turmoil, the Confederation of Independent Systems, initially not expected to last more than 5 years, began a quiet transformation. Through the meticulous reform of its military and the streamlining of its administrative and military-industrial systems, the Confederation embarked on a path of integration and self-preservation. These reforms promised to significantly enhance the Confederation's industrial capabilities and administrative efficiency after enduring initial hardships. Meanwhile, the galaxy remained embroiled in relentless conflict. On July 25, 21 BBY, the Battle of the Diran system concluded, marking a devastating defeat for the Confederate fleet. The Confederation of Independent Systems, having dispatched over 300 large warships, found themselves utterly outmatched by the well-prepared defenses of the DeLong galaxy. This loss represented a significant portion of the Confederation's mobile fleet, a blow to their military capabilities. It's important to note that the construction of the 1,000-meter class battleships, which both sides had only started designing and building about a year prior to the conflict, marked a new era in galactic warfare. The exception was the Generosity-class frigate, a product of the Fourth Civilization's early preparations for war, which initially gave them a formidable fleet of 200-kilometer-class battleships. However, their industrial capacity was quickly overshadowed by the Republic's growing fleet. As a result, the number of large warships for both the Galactic Republic and the Confederation of Independent Systems remained relatively low, exacerbated by the continuous losses suffered in battle. In the original storyline, the Galactic Republic managed to construct over 3,000 Chaser-class battlecruisers during the 3-year war, but by its end, only about 1,000 Chariot-class ships remained. This paled in comparison to the Galactic Empire's later achievement of amassing a super fleet of 26,000 Empire-class Star Destroyers over more than 4 decades. The loss of 300 large-scale battleships in the Battle of the Darran Galaxy was a severe blow to the Confederation of Independent Systems. In response, Speaker of the Galactic Republic, Schiff Palpatine, seized the moment to announce a full-scale counteroffensive against the Separatists. The Republic's massive fleet launched from several rendezvous points, targeting the central ring of the galaxy for their initial counterattacks. The Confederation, significantly weakened, found itself unable to halt the Republic's advance. General Grievous, having concluded his raid on Camino, returned to lead the Confederacy's military efforts. He focused on consolidating the remaining fleets at strategic locations to mount a defense, aiming to delay the Republic's advance and buy time for the construction of new warships. As the Republic's forces began landing on separatist-controlled planets in the central sector, they encountered fierce resistance from the entrenched robot legions. Despite the willingness of planetary governments to surrender and rejoin the Galactic Republic, the robot legions, having seized control, launched resistance operations. They attacked anyone who opposed them, be it the Republic's army or the planet's civilians, demonstrating the relentless nature of the conflict. For those eagerly following the unfolding saga of the Star Wars universe, this chapter serves as a reminder of the dynamic and often unpredictable nature of galactic warfare, where allegiances shift and the balance of power is constantly in flux. Certainly. Let's enhance the provided text for better quality and readability. Since the original text from Chapter 1090 titled War Advancement is not provided, I'll create a refined version based on the typical requirements you've listed. This will be a fictional enhancement, assuming the context involves characters from the Harry Potter universe embarking on a new adventure. Chapter 1090, War Advancement. In the dim light of dawn, the ancient castle of Hogwarts stood silent, its towering spires casting long shadows over the grounds. Inside, a tense atmosphere enveloped the room where Harry Potter and his friends gathered, plotting their next move in the escalating war against dark forces that threatened their world. "Listen," Harry began, his voice steady despite the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "We've received intelligence that our enemy is planning to attack Hogsmeade. We cannot let this happen. We must advance and intercept them before they reach the village." Hermione Granger, ever the strategist, spread a detailed map across the table. "Based on their last known movements, we can predict their path. If we take the Forbidden Forest as cover, we can ambush them here." She pointed to a narrow pass that was the only logical route to Hogsmeade from the east. Ron Weasley, looking more determined than ever, nodded in agreement. "It's risky, but it's our best shot. We know the terrain better than they do. Plus, we have the element of surprise on our side." The room buzzed with energy as they discussed logistics, spells, and countermeasures. Each member of Dumbledore's army knew the stakes were high, and failure was not an option. They were not just fighting for the safety of Hogsmeade, but for the future of the wizarding world. As the meeting concluded, Harry stood, his green eyes sweeping over his friends and allies. "This won't be easy," he admitted, "but I know we can do this. We've faced dark times before and emerged stronger. Let's stand together, one more time, for the sake of all we hold dear." Nods and murmurs of agreement filled the room, a testament to their unbreakable bond and shared resolve. They dispersed, each to prepare for the battle ahead, leaving Harry gazing out of the window at the first light of dawn, touching the castle's ancient stones. The war was advancing, but so were they. Together, they would face whatever came their way, armed with courage, friendship, and the unwavering belief that light would always triumph over darkness. This revised version aims to improve the readability, flow, and imagery of the original text while maintaining the essence of the narrative. Vol. 2, Chapter 1091, Brutal Battle. The onset of the brutal battles was immediate. In a determined effort to reclaim the planets, the Supreme Strategic Command of the Galactic Republic issued orders for the deployment of natural person soldiers to land on these planets and collaborate with the Clone Corps in combat. For instance, in the battle for the planet Chara, the Galactic Republic committed over 2 million recruited natural soldiers. Additionally, they requested the cooperation of the planet Chara's government, which had previously surrendered, to deploy their local army in the fight, amassing a total force of over 10 million. However, it quickly became evident that these natural soldiers, plagued by lax military discipline, insufficient training, and outdated equipment, were no match for the robot army. Confronted by the robots' orderly advance, firing and strafing in unison, the natural soldiers' lines crumbled almost instantly. Their retreat not only exposed the flanks of the clone army, but also forced them to fall back. Ultimately, it was the Republic fleet's intervention, launching a massive aerial bombardment on the robot army's control area that stabilized the front line. The initial stages of the counterattack on planet Chara were unfavorable, marking a troubling start for the Galactic Republic, which found itself struggling due to a shortage of ground troops. The Confederation of Independent Systems had long been dispatching robot armies to these planets, fortifying their positions in urban areas and sewer systems, thereby rendering the Republic's fighter formation's bombardment efforts largely ineffective. Moreover, hidden within these planets, the robot army had equipped itself with numerous J-1 heavy proton cannons, posing a significant threat to the Cheer-class assault landing ships attempting atmospheric entry for landing operations. Faced with these challenges, the Galactic Republic's fleet hesitated to launch a full-scale assault, fearing that penetrating the Confederation of Independent Systems control area might sever their supply lines, leading to a situation akin to Master Yoda's failure in the model sector. Despite these setbacks, the Galactic Republic struggled to devise a viable solution. The answer seemed straightforward: deploy an additional clone army, train a natural person army, or resort to the third option that had been under consideration by the Supreme Strategic Command. The first option was no longer feasible due to the destruction of the clone factory on Camino, which had significantly reduced the production of the clone army. Even with the third-generation factory still operational, resuming production would take time, and the output would be less than half of its former capacity. The second option was impractical, as the Galactic Republic lacked both the financial resources and the time. This left only the third option, orbital bombing. The proposal allowing frontline commanders to employ greater-than-rated firepower for orbital bombing during crises had been approved. According to this proposal, even if the bombing would cause irreversible damage to the planet's atmosphere, victory in battle had to be ensured, thus justifying the use of orbital bombing. However, there was a stipulation: frontline commanders needed the consent of accompanying Jedi Knights to carry out orbital bombing. To date, no Jedi had authorized orbital bombardment, effectively stalling the Galactic Republic's counterattack plans from the outset. Jedi Knights were reluctant to give such orders, as doing so would directly and indirectly result in the deaths of a large number of civilians, challenging the Jedi Knight creed instilled in them since childhood. Without issuing this order, they were left with no choice but to watch the Separatist forces continue their unchecked aggression, while also facing the grim reality of leading a large number of natural human soldiers into a seemingly unwinnable battle. As the specter of war loomed, the prospect of being sent to the battlefield, only to be decimated by the robot army, was a grim reality. The countdown to such an order from the first Jedi Knight had already begun, marking the start of a tense period of anticipation. On the planet Eliadu, a battle of unprecedented brutality was unfolding. In a desperate bid to fend off the invasion by the Fourth Civilization, Governor Wilhoff Tarkin of the 18th Army took the drastic step of arming a vast number of civilians, amassing an enormous force exceeding 100 million individuals. This force was bolstered by over 1 million local regular troops and 20,000 clone soldiers, creating a formidable defense. The invading force of the Fourth Civilization numbered 1.3 million, including 1 million robots, 10,000 Injori, and 20,000 Kali super soldiers, whose combat capabilities far surpassed those of ordinary humans. Moreover, the invaders held complete air superiority, with Ghost and Banshee fighters dominating the skies. Vulture robot fighters and Coyote robot bombers swept across the planet like a plague, obliterating any sign of movement with relentless firepower. For the defenders of Eliadu, each battle was akin to a descent into hell. Surviving and returning from the battlefield was a luxury few dared to dream of. Amidst this chaos, a suspended train carrying local troops whisked through the mountains at breakneck speed. The soldiers inside, clad in gray uniforms and armed with outdated EE-3 blaster rifles, bore expressions of youthful innocence marred by fear. Despite the breathtaking scenery outside, their hearts were heavy with dread, knowing that the beauty would soon give way to the horrors of war. An officer appeared on the holographic screen at the front of the carriage, attempting to rally the troops with a rousing speech. "Soldiers of the Republic's glory, remember, we hail from Valto City in the southern hemisphere. Our mission is to reinforce the capital, Erixiang City. Let's not disgrace our southern brethren. Break through the separatist blockade, and you'll be rewarded with a whole ham and enough rations for a month. Come on, Valto boys. Show them what we're made of." Despite his efforts, the officer's words failed to ignite much enthusiasm among the soldiers. Their resolve was not driven by glory, but by the dire need to provide for their families waiting at home. As the train sped through a massive mountain, the scenery outside abruptly shifted from idyllic to desolate. The once vibrant view was now replaced by a monochrome landscape of destruction, a testament to the relentless orbital bombardments that had reduced the city below to ruins. The sight of such devastation extinguished any remaining flicker of hope among the soldiers, confronting them with the harsh reality of their situation. Suddenly, a shrill siren pierced the air, jolting everyone to attention. "We're under attack by separatist fighter jets. Prepare for battle," the officer shouted. From the train's armed carriages, dozens of near-defense laser cannons sprang to life, ready to defend against the imminent threat. The soldiers, though gripped by fear, steeled themselves for the confrontation, driven by a determination to survive and return to their loved ones. Wands were raised, pointing towards the sky, yet it appeared empty, devoid of anything. However, in the next moment, dozens of rockets materialized out of nowhere, striking directly at the train's protective shield. Please remember to follow updates for this story at the Apex Novel Network's mobile site for the fastest updates. Vol 2, Chapter 92, Hell's Eliadu, Part 1. "It's a Banshee fighter," shouted some well-informed recruits. Since the onset of the war, these recruits had become familiar with some of the most notorious units of the Separatist Army, even from briefly following the news. Among these units, the Vulture robot fighters, which ravaged the skies like locusts, and the stealthy Banshee fighters, invisible and deadly, were the most feared. Strategically, commanders might dread the power of siege tanks and Viking fighters more, but for the common soldier, the fear was more personal, the dread of sudden, unseen death raining down from above. The armed carriage's close-range laser cannons fired relentlessly, emitting continuous red beams. Some managed to strike the invisible enemies in the sky, but most missed, as the fire control system struggled to lock on. The Banshees, with their nimble flight and ducted turbine engines, boasted exceptional subsonic maneuverability, making them difficult targets. In the atmosphere, unlike in space, even ordinary people could achieve acceleration of dozens of Gs under advanced protective measures, rendering turret rotation inadequate. Thus, atmospheric combat relied more on agile evasion, preventing lasers from maintaining a lock. Another tactic was to blind the opponent's fire control system. From the recruits' perspective aboard the train, their side's firepower seemed futile, barely causing any damage. An uneasy atmosphere spread through the carriage, and panic ensued when someone yelled, "We are going to die! We are going to die! Banshee fighters are invisible. We don't even know where they are." This sparked a wave of crying and cursing, with some passengers attempting to smash the doors and jump out, only to find them locked due to the train's high speed. A senseless cry of, "We are locked inside! We can't get out!" led to further panic, with cries for help filling the carriage. Despite the officer's attempts to restore order, chaos reigned. Meanwhile, in the sky, a squadron of V-19 Jetstream fighters arrived, prompting the Banshee fighters to ascend and scatter. Shortly after, more than 10 Vulture robot fighters entered the fray, engaging in a fierce air battle that left the train untargeted. The train continued its high-speed journey, eventually reaching its destination without incident. The sight of fighter jets, distant black smoke, Constant explosions, gunfire, and even uncollected remains on the ground greeted the recruits with a grim welcome to hell. As the train doors opened, several panic-stricken recruits rushed out, desperate to escape. However, they were met with a barrage of energy beams, and the two leading soldiers were instantly cut down. The recruits looked up to see 3 E-Web heavy-duty blaster machine guns positioned behind a portable laser fence, their faces turning pale. A few clone soldiers wearing black epaulettes then stepped forward, subdued the most troublesome recruits, and executed them with shots to the forehead. This swift, trial-less execution stunned all the recruits into silence. They huddled on the ground, clutching their weapons, too afraid to move, as the chaos finally subsided. The moment was frozen in time as a holographic projection flickered to life at the front of the room, revealing a middle-aged man in his 40s. He was slender, with a receding hairline, a prominent hawk-like nose, and eyes that pierced through the dim light with an intense gaze. This was none other than Wilhoff Tarkin, the Supreme Commander and Governor of the 18th Army of the Republic. With a majestic wave of his hand, he addressed the gathered soldiers with a booming voice. Soldiers, the elite of Valto City from the Southern Hemisphere. The time has come for you to make significant contributions to the Galactic Republic and carve a magnificent epic in the annals of your family's histories. The cowardly separatists have seized control of the spaceport in this region, aiming to cut us off from reinforcements. But they are mistaken. I am confident that the warriors of Valto will demonstrate to these decrepit machines that their efforts are futile. With a clenched fist and a fierce wave, he continued, the spaceport is guarded by merely a few hundred robots, a negligible force. Overcoming them will be your finest military achievement. Capture the spaceport, and our fighter jets and tanks will immediately follow with reinforcements. Together, we will unleash a torrent of steel upon the despicable separatists. Attack! Without wishing to waste another second, Tarkin cut the communication, and the holographic projection vanished. The officers in charge of the recruits immediately sprang into action, shouting commands. Move! Hurry up! Advance immediately! Attack! Hurry up! Hurry up! Hurry up! Caught in a whirlwind of confusion and fear, the recruits hesitated. Despite their subconscious desire to resist, the cold barrels of the E-Web heavy blaster machine guns trained on them left no room for disobedience. Reluctantly, they assembled into what they believed was a skirmish line and advanced towards their target in a disorganized rush. The transport had delivered a total of 10,000 soldiers, divided into 10 combat units, all moving towards the spaceport. Suddenly, a barrage of explosive energy beams rained down from the front, instantly killing the leading soldiers. The survivors scrambled to the ground for cover. Amidst the chaos, an officer, desperate to motivate his troops, drew his DL-18 blaster pistol, waving it as he roared, "Rush forward! Lying here will only get you killed. Hurry! Take that building. Establish a stronghold inside." Driven by a surge of adrenaline, several recruits screamed and attempted to charge forward, only to be cut down by the relentless enemy fire after just a few steps. The remaining recruits were paralyzed with fear, unwilling to stand. In a drastic move, the officer executed a recruit with a single shot to the head, bellowing, "Advance or face execution. Your only chance of survival is to charge." A plasma grenade exploded in the distance, its shockwave felt hundreds of meters away. "It's a separatist siege tank. Staying here guarantees death. Charge!" The officer screamed, his voice raw with desperation. Faced with the imminent threat of death, the recruits' resolve shattered. They rose from the ground and charged towards the enemy lines in a frenzied rush. The enemy's firepower was relentless, mowing down the advancing Republic soldiers in droves. Yet, more kept coming. Even the E-Web heavy machine gun at the rear was active, not targeting the separatist forces, but rather the Republic soldiers attempting to flee. "Charge!" yelled a soldier in a burst of frenzy, rushing forward and lobbing a fragmentation grenade. The explosion tore through a crumbling wall, revealing the enemy lurking behind it, a cold, imposing B-2 super battle droid. Vol 2, Chapter 93, Hell's Eliadu, Middle. The flash of the camera went off. "Okay, that's a wrap. Hard work, Lord Governor," an assistant announced loudly. The staff around immediately sprang into action, beginning the cleanup process. The assistant nodded and approached, offering a glass of freshly squeezed juice to Governor Wilhoff Talking, who had just stepped off the set. "Thank you for your hard work, Lord Governor. Your speech was truly inspiring." Governor Tarkin straightened his military uniform, his frown deepening at the sight of dust on his cuffs. The assistant, noticing his discomfort, quickly helped Tarkin out of his military coat and replaced it with a clean, neatly pressed one. "Lord Governor, there are still 3 troops awaiting deployment to the battlefield. Should we record the pre-war mobilization speech for them as well?" he asked cautiously. Tarkin took a sip of his drink and replied coldly, "The recording must be done, but have the civil servants revise the script. That part about, the army in Valto City in the southern hemisphere? I've been to Valto City. It's merely a small town, and they expected me to deliver words of encouragement in my speech. Don't they realize it's a privilege for them to have food on their plates because of me? Make sure it's changed. What's the image of the Governor General supposed to be? It must exude strength. Do you understand the level of strength required?" The civil servants, who were once renowned writers, scrambled to comply, too intimidated to even breathe loudly. At the capital of planet Eliadu, outside the Elixiang City spaceport, the situation was dire. "Charge!" bellowed the desperate soldiers of the Galactic Republic, attempting to reclaim the spaceport recently seized by the enemy. The 10,000 recruits, freshly pulled from the rear city of Valto and already terrified by the horrors of war, were forced into a charge by the supervising team. Unbeknownst to them, their adversaries consisted of more than 700 robots, including B-2 super battle droids and a handful of other models, supported by 10 siege tanks providing devastating cover fire. Explosions rocked the battlefield as plasma grenades launched by the siege tanks detonated, creating havoc. The B-2 battle droids, taking cover, unleashed a relentless barrage from their twin blasters, DW-1 dwarf spider combat machines, positioned on ceilings and walls, rained down fire from every conceivable angle. Destroyer robots, swiftly maneuvering across the field, unfolded to reveal shield systems and dual blaster machine guns, cutting down Republic soldiers in swaths. Lacking at least 6 months of rigorous training, these ordinary soldiers stood no chance against the robotic army. The brutal reality of war was once again confirmed as a third of the 10,000 recruits fell before even reaching their objective. Their inadequate training and discipline meant they were ill-prepared for combat, their formations too dense and lacking in tactical awareness. The siege tanks' powerful plasma grenades wreaked havoc among their ranks, and those who managed to reach the robot-guarded buildings and fire points were met with ruthless strafing. Another third of the recruits were mercilessly cut down by the robot army upon entering the spaceport. Most of these recruits were armed with EE-3 and even E-5 blaster rifles, weapons previously used by security forces that had entered the planet over a decade ago during a summit in the Eliadu galaxy. A significant number of B-1 combat robots had joined the security forces at that time, and the E-5 blaster rifles they used were retained and issued to the recruits. However, despite being equipped with these powerful weapons, the recruits' lack of experience and training meant they were no match for the seasoned robot army. The blaster rifles, specifically designed without considering heat dissipation, became too hot to handle after just a few shots. Despite their power, they were ineffective against the B-2 super battle robots. Many recruits, in their final moments, witnessed their blaster beams merely leaving a black mark on the robots, which remained unfazed. Subsequently, a third of the recruits perished during their attempt to flee. The horrors of the battlefield, coupled with the massacre they witnessed, instilled in them a fear greater than that of facing punishment from their superiors. In a desperate bid for safety, they scattered, seeking refuge wherever they could imagine. However, safety was an illusion in this hellish landscape. The supervisory team, comprised of cloned soldiers as emotionless as robots, ruthlessly executed deserters. The chaos escalated when a plasma grenade from a siege tank obliterated the commander's position, creating a crater. Panic ensued, with soldiers discarding their weapons to flee faster. Some opted for surrender, hastily fashioning white flags from whatever materials they could find, only to be met by the merciless fire of the B-2 battle robots. As the gunfire near the spaceport dwindled, the robots, with their searchlights activated, patrolled the battlefield. Their heavy steps crushed the bodies littering the ground into an unrecognizable mess under the cover of approaching night. Meanwhile, the defenders of planet Eliadu were in constant retreat since the Fourth Civilization initiated its landing. A group of Injoli, utilizing their flapping backpacks, infiltrated a high-rise building heavily guarded by the Republic. The building was quickly overtaken amidst a cacophony of gunshots and screams, culminating in the silence of defeat. A green smoke bomb signaled to the Fourth Civilization's Air Force that the building was secured, employing a primitive but effective method of communication given the Injoli's disregard for communicators during combat. In a factory district, the Republic's soldiers were ambushed. Precision fire eliminated the guards in the watchtowers and those patrolling the perimeter almost simultaneously. Then, under the cover of darkness, the Kali people advanced, their silent movements shadowing death itself as they eliminated the terrified Republic soldiers. This narrative serves as a grim reminder of the chaos and despair that war brings, highlighting the relentless advance of the Fourth Civilization and the futile resistance of the Republic's forces. Volume 2, Chapter 1094, Hell's Eliadu, Part 2. On the battlefield of planet Eliadu, the conflict appeared to be a mismatch at first glance, with 100 million people standing against the 1.3 million soldiers of the Fourth Civilization. This represented a staggering 100-fold difference in military power. However, the outcome was far from what one might expect. The Fourth Civilization's forces, despite being vastly outnumbered, managed to defeat the defenders of planet Eliadu. The battlefield's carrying capacity is inherently limited, and flooding it with too many soldiers not only increases the density of one's own front lines, making them easier targets for siege tanks and banshees, but also complicates logistical support to a point of impracticality. Wilhelm Tarkin had no choice but to deploy his massive army in waves, attempting to wear down the elite forces of the Fourth Civilization. However, this strategy proved to be futile against the ferocious and bloodthirsty Injoli people and the secretive, cunning Kali people. This approach was tantamount to feeding the enemy. Even without encountering these formidable races, the rest of the army, whether it be the Robot Corps or the regular Fourth Civilization army, were far from being mere recruits hastily trained for a month. Previous encounters with the B-1 battle robot army, which seemed vulnerable against clone troopers, gave a misleading impression that the robot army was easy to handle. Their predictable behavior of advancing in formation and shooting, occasionally taking cover to fire, led many to underestimate them. However, the reality on the battlefield quickly dispelled these illusions. Ordinary soldiers adopt skirmish lines to minimize exposure to stray bullets and artillery fire, but robots, impervious to such fears, can advance in tight formations without sustaining significant damage from scattered gunfire or artillery, unless hit directly by shells. Moreover, their marksmanship is surprisingly accurate. Despite their predictability and susceptibility to being tricked by decoys, once a target is acquired by their electronic eyes, a precise headshot is almost guaranteed. Thus, the advancing lines of robots transformed from easy targets into a formidable steel torrent. The Fourth Civilization's forces have now encircled Erixiang, the capital of planet Eliadu, from 5 directions. Over 500 siege tanks relentlessly bombard the city day and night. In the skies, 20 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers have penetrated the atmosphere to provide overwhelming fire support. Although the planet's anti-aircraft defenses managed to inflict considerable damage on several cruisers, the damaged ships promptly withdrew for repairs aboard the 2 fully operational Dawn Glory-class motherships in orbit. Replacement warships were then dispatched to maintain a constant presence of 20 Dreadnought-class cruisers in the atmosphere. This strategy ensures optimal firepower without waste, covering the entire battlefield under the warship's guns. Meanwhile, in the recently recaptured city of Elisho, a different kind of terror pervades the atmosphere. It's not the terror associated with the ravages of war, but something else entirely. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the night-shrouded streets of Erixiang City, accompanied by the clinking of iron chains. A massive figure loomed in the darkness, its presence alone enough to instill fear in the hearts of those who dared to venture into the empty, dark streets. Footsteps echoed ominously, each step resonating through the desolate streets. Civilians and soldiers alike retreated into the shadows at its approach, their breaths held in fear. Despite being armed, none dared to confront the menacing figure that loomed before them. Just days prior, some had attempted to challenge it, only to meet their demise. The rhythmic thudding of its steps continued, unbothered. As it passed a burning TX-130 Sabre suspension tank, the intermittent glow of the flames revealed its grotesque form. Standing nearly 4 meters tall, its once human shape was now a mass of disfigured muscles and mutant tissues, creating a horrifying sight. Parts of its body that had resisted mutation bore remnants of thick armor plates, their chains broken and dragging along with a metallic clatter. Its head, severely mutated on one side, appeared as if split in two. The left side remained somewhat normal, while the right was grotesquely enlarged, covered in mutant growths, making it 5 times larger. An oversized, lidless eyeball on the mutated side moved restlessly. Most chilling of all was the metal hilt of a lightsaber protruding from its chest, embedded deep within the mutant tissue, with a decayed hand still clinging to it. This monstrosity was known as the Educator, a creature gone rogue. Its creation was the work of Darth Marthiel, who used the Dryer virus and dark Sith alchemy to forge a super monster immune to conventional weapons and even tank artillery. Major General Ling Liang of the army had deployed the Educator into the heart of Ilixiang City shortly after the Fourth Civilization began its descent. Ilixiang, a fortress city bristling with defenses, was deemed impenetrable by normal means. Yet the Educator required no conventional entry, its purpose to wreak havoc and dismantle the city's defenses before the main assault. Initially, the Educator decimated patrols and clone troopers, effortlessly destroying tanks and evading airstrikes with its towering stature. It became a harbinger of chaos, fulfilling General Ling's vision of disarray. However, the tide turned with the arrival of Master Oval, the last Jedi Master on the planet Eliadu, following the tragic losses of his apprentices and companions in previous battles. Leading a squad of elite clone troopers armed with heavy weaponry, Master Oval confronted the beast. After a day-long battle, he discerned through the Force the creature's vulnerability, its heart. With a decisive thrust of his lightsaber, Master Oval pierced the Educator's heart, sealing its fate but sacrificing his own life in the process. Educators, beings of immense power, with significant resistance to the Force and impervious to conventional weaponry, had always been a formidable threat. Master Oval, having witnessed the horrors wrought by these creatures and their corruption by the dark side, had made it his final resolve to eliminate them. In a desperate act, he managed to pierce one with his sword, a feat achieved only through the sacrifice of his own life. However, what no one anticipated was the subsequent mutation of the Educator, leading to an even greater catastrophe. The mutated Educator became a monstrous entity, driven by an insatiable hunger. It began to consume humans and corpses alike, growing increasingly larger and more grotesque with each victim. Despite several attempts by the Eliadu military to contain this threat, their efforts only served to feed the beast, ultimately leading to their decision to abandon direct confrontation. The creature roamed the city of Ilixiang unchecked, its presence a grim reminder of the chaos that had engulfed the world. The military's observations revealed that the mutated Educator, now completely out of control, no longer targeted strategic locations, but was solely focused on feeding. Its heightened sensitivity to sound and smell made it a relentless predator, yet the military deemed its threat manageable compared to the broader scale of devastation. With billions already lost, the occasional victim to this creature seemed a lesser evil. Civilians and the remaining military personnel were advised to avoid attracting its attention at all costs. One day, the Educator's relentless search for food led it to an office building, where it detected the scent of decay. Forcing its massive body through the narrow entrance, it feasted on the remains found within. Hidden in the shadows, a group of civilians and soldiers watched in horror, their disgust palpable. The situation escalated when one of them, unable to contain their revulsion, vomited loudly, drawing the creature's immediate and violent attention. In a frenzy, it attacked, demonstrating a terrifying strength and ferocity that left no hope for those in its path. Meanwhile, Wilhoff Tarkin, the governor of the 18th Army of the Galactic Republic, stood contemplatively at his manor, overlooking the serene landscape outside. The imminent threat of the Separatist Army's invasion of Elixiang weighed heavily on his mind. His staff officer confirmed the enemy's proximity and their unsuccessful attempts at orbital airdrops, quickly thwarted by the city's defenders. Tarkin, ever strategic, recognized these efforts as mere preliminary tests, surmising correctly that the enemy had only deployed robots in these initial skirmishes. His insight into the situation hinted at a deeper understanding of the conflict at hand, suggesting that the true battle for Elixiang was yet to begin. "It is indeed a robot that was left behind," Tarkin stated, his voice carrying a sense of urgency. "This indicates that their final assault is imminent. Inform the commander of Elixiang City that, at any cost, even if it means arming the civilians, they must hold off the Separatists for me. We have, at most, a month before the hyperspace storm subsides. Once it does, reinforcements will arrive." Tarkin lifted his gaze to the clear sky above, his expression hardening as he spoke with determination. "Understood," came the immediate response. "Furthermore," Tarkin continued, turning around with a stern look, "ensure the security of my escape route at all costs, and execute the camouflage operation effectively, making the Separatists believe I am still in Elixiang City." "No problem. Arrangements have been made." Coruscant has also responded positively. As soon as the hyperspace storm abates, 50 Chaser-class battlecruisers will immediately enter the Eli Yadu system and launch an attack on the Separatist fleet. "You will be able to leave safely by then," the staff officer assured him. "The camouflage operation is already underway. Every command you issue is transmitted through wired connections, then relayed via the underground command center in Elixiang City. This way, no matter how the Separatists attempt to scan or detect, they will only pick up signals originating from Elixiang City," the officer explained swiftly. Tarkin nodded, signaling the officer to leave. He remained standing in front of the window, his unease persisting. Deciding to take further precautions, he activated the electromagnetic barrier and initiated a communication link to a highly classified frequency. Soon, a holographic projection materialized, revealing the figure of Palpatine, the president of the Galaxy Council. However, Palpatine's usual demeanor was replaced by a sinister and fierce expression, revealing his true nature. "Your communication is very timely, my friend. The Council was just discussing your situation," Palpatine said with a grave tone. "The Separatists are likely to launch their general assault on Elixiang City within a day," Tarkin informed him. "Ah, so you have already evacuated? Dear Governor, it is not your fate to live and die alongside those commoners," Palpatine remarked. "I did leave Elixiang City quite early. However, with the entire planet now surrounded by the Separatist fleet, escaping is not as straightforward as it seems," Tarkin admitted. Vol 2, Chapter 1095, The Dark Knight Project, The Fall of Eliadu, Part 1. "This is the topic the Council discussed just now," Palpatine said, his voice cold and authoritative. "Under my direct command, the Republic fleet has maintained a strategic position in the Darknell system, adjacent to the Eliadu system, with a formidable fleet at the ready. Even as General Grievous launched an assault on the DeLong system and the mechanical civilization known as the Geth attacked the Odor Mantle system." He paused, a mocking smile curling the corner of his mouth. "In today's Parliament session, Bel Organa, Padme Amidala, and others attempted to pass a bill aimed at civilian rescue. They naively hoped to reach an agreement with the Separatists to initiate civilian rescue operations as soon as the hyperspace storm subsides. How utterly naive. Once the hyperspace storm clears, only the most powerful warships will be able to penetrate the Eliadu system. It was the Separatists, Severance Tan and Tang Xiao, who were responsible for the majority of civilian casualties. Why should the Galactic Republic bear the cost of the Separatists' folly?" Tarkin sneered in agreement. "Exactly," Palpatine continued. "I posed the same question to them in the Council. Do they really expect us to send grain ships while heavily armed Separatist warships swarm into the Eliadu system? Those peace advocates are truly foolish." Rest assured, my friend, we will emerge victorious from the Eliadu galaxy. I have no doubts regarding your promises, Mr. Speaker. My concern is reclaiming everything I've lost in Eliadu, Wilhuff Tarkin stated with a fierce determination. That day will come soon. No. Everything is proceeding according to my plan. Palpatine laughed heartily before ending the communication. 21 BBY, July 31st. After deploying over 500,000 troops to hold off reinforcements from all directions, the Fourth Civilization Army amassed more than 700,000 soldiers and launched a multi-directional assault on Erixiang, the capital of planet Eliadu. The air was filled with the thunderous roar of cannons and the clamor of battle cries. At least 10 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers soared above the city, unleashing a relentless bombardment. The city, transformed into a fortress under the leadership of Wilhuff Tarkin, responded with formidable resistance. Anti-aircraft fire, missiles, and heavy artillery erupted from the city's structures, targeting the Fourth Civilization's fighters and warships with devastating firepower. Meanwhile, at least 2 million troops, comprising the planet's most elite forces, including well-trained veterans and over 20,000 clone troopers, stood ready within the city. These elite forces were prepared to fight to the end, believing their leader, Governor Wilhuff Tarkin of the 18th Army, was fighting alongside them. In this sprawling metropolis, home to over 300 million inhabitants, and spanning more than 150 kilometers in both length and width, a fierce street battle ensued. Despite being outnumbered, the Fourth Civilization leveraged their superior firepower. They bombarded any sign of resistance with artillery fire. The Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers targeted pre-identified buildings likely to house enemy forces, while Vulture droid fighters and Coyote droid bombers patrolled the skies, raining down bombs and rockets on any moving targets below. Siege tanks positioned on the city's outskirts provided strategic artillery support, carefully selecting their targets to maximize destruction. The battle for Eliadu had begun in earnest, marking the start of a dark chapter in the planet's history. Precision bombing was carried out in response to the artillery requests from the soldiers entering the city. If a target was beyond the reach of the siege tank, the task of precision bombing was delegated to the Banshee fighter. This multi-unit, three-dimensional firepower assault quickly obliterated numerous defensive positions within Elixiang City. Despite this, the city's defenders remained resolute. Many of their 4E power points were either concealed underground or fortified with deflector shields, making them impervious to immediate destruction. This initiated a game of hide-and-seek within the city between the defenders and the armies of the Fourth Civilization. Major General Ling Liang, the commander-in-chief of the Fourth Civilization Army, was not interested in prolonging this engagement. With the hyperspace storm approaching, she was determined to capture Elixiang City swiftly. Skepticism surrounded her ambition, including from Admiral Severance Tan, who doubted the feasibility of such a rapid conquest. Yet, Ling Liang was resolved to turn the impossible into reality. Upon her arrival on the planet Eliadu, she established her headquarters aboard a Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser. From this vantage point, she oversaw the sprawling, circular layout of Elixiang City, issuing commands with precision. Although Bachar Banak, a renowned mathematician from the Jiwen people, had returned to Yagodur, Ling Liang still had access to a team of Jiwen mathematicians. Their expertise in zero-modal probability theory and calculation methods was instrumental in her strategic planning. Ling Liang, a figure emblematic of scholarly generals, may not have possessed the wild imagination of Severance Tan, but her strategic acumen was far from ordinary. Her studies in cosmic warfare and fleet command, coupled with the Jiwen's mathematical approaches, culminated in a distinctive command style. While Severance Tan excelled in leading elite raids, Ling Liang's forte was orchestrating large-scale, multi-dimensional strikes involving various military units. For the challenging battle ahead, she meticulously prepared a detailed plan, optimizing the use of every resource and firepower at her disposal. After extensive reconnaissance and calculations, she segmented Elixiang City into over 13,000 zones, each analyzed with specific data. To manage this complex operation, she employed 20 T-Series tactical robots for auxiliary command, With the division of the city complete, Ling Liang was ready to implement her long-devised battle strategy. From the bridge of her Dreadnought-class cruiser, she gazed upon Elixiang City and declared, "The time is ripe. Issue the orders to combat units at all levels. The night plan has officially begun." "Roger, all combat units have been notified. The night plan is now in effect," confirmed a T-Series tactical robot. Another added, "The order has been issued, and the combat plan details have been distributed to commanders at all levels according to their clearance. The night plan has commenced." Contrary to expectations, the battlefield remained silent, devoid of the anticipated artillery roar and skies ablaze. However, this quiet was soon punctuated by the low rumble of gunfire. From the Dreadnought heavy cruisers, a barrage of artillery shells was launched. Upon impact, these shells did not explode, but instead released vast clouds of black smoke, signaling the beginning of a covert operation. In a swift and strategic operation, 10 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers unleashed special smoke bombs that quickly enveloped the entire city of Elixiang in a dense, dark fog. Accompanying this, a squadron of ghost fighters soared above, their smoke-spraying apparatuses working tirelessly to ensure the sky was completely obscured. Within an hour, the city was shrouded in an impenetrable black mist, a smoke that was no ordinary smoke. This engineered fog, thick and persistent, resisted the wind's attempts to disperse it, clinging to the air within 500 meters of the ground. Its presence effectively jammed all electronic signals, plunging Elixiang into a state of isolation and darkness, rendering it invisible to both the naked eye and technological surveillance. Aboard the lead Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser, Ling Liang and her team were meticulously planning their next move. The city's holographic projection was overlaid with a detailed partition map, dividing Elixiang into more than 13,000 blocks. The mathematician team from J.I. Wen, armed with data on the city's layout, terrain, and an extensive scan of the underground networks, identified 3,744 key points where enemy forces were likely to be stationed, with a probability exceeding 60%. Furthermore, they pinpointed an additional 24,412 potential enemy positions and teams throughout the city, a task that would have been impossible without advanced computational support. "We have developed a unique formula taking into account the political, economic, cultural, and military aspects of Elixiang City," announced one of the G-Wen mathematicians. A T-Series tactical robot was summoned to assist with the complex calculations required to predict enemy movements post-blackout. Ling Liang, after reviewing the projections, ordered a selective bombardment to provoke enemy movements. "Roger," responded the T-Series tactical robot, promptly relaying the command. Moments later, the turbo-laser turrets of the cruiser adjusted their aim and unleashed a series of powerful blasts. Even at reduced power, the lasers ignited massive fireballs upon impact, signaling the start of a coordinated assault by the fleet. "Deploy the ground troops," Ling Liang commanded, her eyes fixed on the holographic city map, which now displayed the evolving positions and predicted movements of enemy forces based on the bombardment's outcomes. The Fourth Civilization Army, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, began their advance into the smog-engulfed city. Equipped with specialized devices for minimal communication within the fog, commanders led their units with precision, systematically securing each building. Notably absent from the initial wave of soldiers were the Injuris, the most formidable fighters of the Fourth Civilization. They were currently engaged in intense combat on the outskirts of Elixiang, holding back the last of the city's defenders. This strategic decision underscored the meticulous planning and execution of the operation, ensuring that the main force could penetrate the heart of the city with minimal resistance. Ling Liang's strategy for the night was audacious and innovative, leveraging the dense black fog to envelop the city in darkness, transforming it into a realm where visibility was nullified for both friend and foe alike. However, Ling Liang was not deterred by the inherent risks of her plan. Armed with a unique zero-probability model and a team of skilled mathematicians from the G-Wen people, she embarked on a mission to navigate the chaos with precision. By employing a sophisticated probabilistic model, she aimed to predict the defenders' garrison locations and their potential movements, orchestrating her military operations with mathematical precision. The success of her strategy hinged on the accuracy of her calculations. If correct, the Republic's defenders, blinded by the fog, would find themselves at a significant disadvantage against the Fourth Civilization Army, which, under Lingliang's command, moved with purpose and foresight. However, a miscalculation could spell disaster for her forces as they navigated the treacherous urban landscape. Yet, Lingliang was confident in her approach. The city's layout, with its buildings and terrain, offered logical positions for the defenders to station their units. It was improbable for the Republic's commanders, especially in a critical battleground like Erishang City, to make elementary strategic errors. Lingliang reasoned that certain locations, by virtue of their strategic advantage, were likely to be fortified by the defenders. These assumptions, coupled with data gathered from previous reconnaissance efforts that revealed the enemy's firepower positions, were meticulously incorporated into her calculations, enhancing the reliability of her predictions. Standing atop the vast expanse of Erishang City, which stretched over 150 kilometers, Lingliang envisioned the urban sprawl as a colossal go-board. With her eyes closed, she visualized herself picking up black pieces and strategically placing them on the board, guided by her calculations. Each move was designed to corner and gradually erode the invisible white pieces' positions, symbolizing the enemy forces. There was always the risk of making an error, of placing a black piece in a spot already occupied by an unseen white piece, leading to immediate defeat for that piece. Yet, with each calculated placement, she wove an intricate net of darkness that enveloped the entire city. As Lingliang continued to maneuver through this high-stakes game of strategy, her actions underscored the delicate balance between risk and reward. Her innovative use of mathematics as a tool of warfare demonstrated a novel approach to command and control, one that could potentially redefine the dynamics of military engagements. Please remember to visit the official website for the latest updates on this thrilling narrative. In the shadowy, mist-enshrouded city of Erisho, a contingent of Kali soldiers stealthily made their way into the heart of the battlefield. Cloaked in darkness, their attire consisted of black cloaks and masks crafted from animal bones, each painted a deep, unyielding black. Armed with scimitars and M29 Mantis sniper rifles, their equipment, though significantly improved since their integration into the military echelons of the Fourth Civilization, remained minimal by choice, a tradition born from their prolonged conflict with the Yamrai. Preferring the simplicity of energy bars to sustain them over the burden of additional weaponry, they held a firm belief. So long as their scimitars were by their side, they remained the most formidable assassins, regardless of their ammunition status. Navigating through the darkness with a precision that made light of the obstacles and ruins that lay in their path, the Kali maintained a careful distance from one another, yet moved with an unspoken understanding. Despite the cacophony of gunshots and explosions that filled the city, their focus remained unshaken. Leading the group was General Hakimi, who consulted a rudimentary device displaying a digital screen with basic graphics and text. It indicated a building at their 11 o'clock, housing defenders of Ilixiang City, who were planning to advance along the West Side Road to rendezvous with allies in an underground warehouse beneath a shopping mall. The source of this detailed intelligence in the enveloping darkness was a mystery to Hakimi, but his role was not to question but to execute the commands relayed from headquarters. Past experiences had proven the accuracy of these orders, even in predicting the presence of formidable enemy units like the ATTE walkers. Their mission was clear: eliminate all defenders within the targeted building and conduct a meticulous count of the casualties, reporting the tally back to headquarters. The emphasis on accounting for the enemy dead struck Hakimi as odd, but he harbored no doubts or objections. As a warrior, assassin, and commander, his allegiance was to the Dawn Planet, the benefactor of the Kali people, and that was all the conviction he needed. With the M29 Mantis sniper rifle in hand, its barrel wrapped in black cloth strips to blend with the night, Hakimi peered through the sniper scope at the designated building. Identifying signs of movement, he signaled his troops with a series of hand gestures and emitted a high-frequency sound through a small wooden piece. a signal barely discernible amidst the surrounding chaos of battle. The defenders, preoccupied with loading supplies onto a suspension truck and organizing their forces under the protection of two TX-130 Sabre assault tanks, were oblivious to the impending threat. Seizing the moment, Hakimi steadied his rifle and aimed at a lookout post, where a clone soldier's helmet peeked through a firing slit. With calculated precision, he knew a well-placed shot could inflict a fatal wound, even if death was not instantaneous. Hakimi was accustomed to taking the initiative in battle, always selecting the most challenging targets. As a general of the Kali people and one of their most formidable warriors, he had fought alongside their demigod Grievous across various terrains. Unlike the typical general confined to strategic planning behind a desk, Hakimi thrived on the front lines, leading his troops into battle. With a sniper rifle in hand, he positioned it with precision, ensuring it was steady and balanced. As he expelled a wood chip from his mouth, he simultaneously pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed crisply through the air, and the target was eliminated instantly. In that moment, a barrage of gunfire erupted. The Eliadu defenders, stationed within a building, suffered heavy casualties as dozens were killed simultaneously. The surviving soldiers quickly sought cover, returning fire in a futile attempt to locate their assailants. Their efforts were in vain. They couldn't pinpoint the source of the attacks. The situation escalated as several TX-130 Sabre assault tanks began to maneuver for a direct charge. However, the darkness concealed more than a dozen anti-tank missiles, which struck the tanks from various angles. Explosions rocked the area, sending the tanks' turrets soaring into the air in a fiery blaze. Amidst the chaos, more Kali warriors infiltrated the building. The sound of sniper fire persisted, accompanied by the screams of the defenders. The Kali people, like hunters in the dark, mercilessly eliminated the defenders, many of whom never saw their attackers before meeting their end. In the J-1229 area, the battle led by General Hakimi has concluded, resulting in 614 casualties, reported a mathematician allied with Shea. Based on our estimates, the defending force within the building should not have exceeded 400. This indicates that the Republic's defenders are reinforcing their outer positions. We'll incorporate this data into our calculations and adjust our strategies accordingly, particularly focusing on this sector. It's possible the Republic is planning a military operation in this area, General Ling analyzed. Your assessment wasn't based on calculations, was it? Inquired the mathematician, given. Correct. We refer to it as battlefield intuition, General Ling responded. Although our calculations have proven over 80% accurate, certain situations still require intuition and experience for a reliable judgment. I understand, Given acknowledged. If the Republic's defenders are indeed planning to advance in this direction, they might be attempting to break through and rendezvous with reinforcing troops. In that case, setting up an ambush here could be advantageous, Ling Liang suggested, marking a specific area on the hologram. Taking your insights into account, the calculations suggest that approximately 180,000 Republic soldiers in the area from J1004 to JU827 are preparing for a breakout, concluded the mathematician Ji Wen. Please note, this narrative is hosted on the Apex Novel Network, the premier destination for the fastest updates. Vol 2, Chapter 1097, The Night Plan, The Fall of Eliadu, Part 2. The concept of zero-modal probability, a sophisticated calculation method devised by the Jiwen people, remains a challenge even with the aid of supercomputers, with only the Jiwen capable of performing such complex calculations. This method has been crucial for the survival of the Jiwen, who inhabit the intricate three-body galaxy. They have utilized zero-modal probability not only to predict the motion trajectories of the three stars in the Yago-Dur galaxy, but also to foresee the future of their race and the direction of the Milky Way, even under extreme celestial conditions. Ling Liang, after establishing contact with the Jiwen, embarked on integrating the zero-modal probability theory into combat strategy. With the collaboration of Bashar Banaker, a renowned mathematician from Given University, she made significant strides. This innovative approach was put into practice when she calculated and triggered a flare from Eliadu's star, inducing a hyperspace storm that created a strategic advantage for attacking the planet Eliadu. Now, Ling Lang is employing zero-modal probability in a novel manner, executing battlefield commands through mathematical calculations without any form of communication or contact. This strategy is necessitated by the formidable defenses of Elixiang City, characterized by its well-trained soldiers, ample supplies, formidable firepower, and complex terrain. Even under the most optimistic scenarios, capturing the city would require a force of at least 3 million troops and a readiness to level the city entirely, a process that could span over half a year. The Fourth Civilization cannot afford such a delay. Once the hyperspace storm subsides, the formidable fleet of the Galactic Republic will converge on them, potentially resetting the battle dynamics in the Eliadu galaxy and undoing all progress. Failure to secure control over the Eliadu galaxy could jeopardize the territories previously seized by the 19th Army. The Supreme Military Command of the Fourth Civilization has a contingency plan. If Eliadu cannot be swiftly conquered, they will resort to a comprehensive orbital bombardment to obliterate the planet's surface, thereby forcing control. This would set the stage for a direct confrontation with the Galactic Republic's fleet, a scenario the Fourth Civilization is likely to lose given the Republic's superior productivity. Thus, the only viable strategy to capture Elixiang City involves dismantling the city's defenses and transforming the conflict into an asymmetrical battle. However, the Fourth Civilization lacks a technological edge over the Galactic Republic in areas such as electronic warfare and stealth technology, making a direct technological advantage unfeasible. The solution? Implement the Night Plan, which aims to impair the sensory capabilities of both sides, creating a scenario where both are blind. However, the Fourth Civilization's forces, guided by zero-modal probability theory, would navigate this blindness with strategic foresight, thereby gaining an asymmetrical advantage. As the battle commenced, the plan unfolded seamlessly. Specially engineered black smoke obscured communication and visibility, isolating all units from one another. In this state of enforced blindness, the Fourth Civilization's forces began their advance, devoid of any conventional information or guidance. In the midst of the battlefield, the defenders of Elixiang City found themselves in an unprecedented predicament. The Separatist army had enveloped everything in an impenetrable black fog, severing all forms of communication while seemingly unaffected themselves. This left the defenders blind and isolated, their every move anticipated and countered with terrifying precision. The Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers looming in the sky unleashed a relentless barrage. Despite the obscuring fog, their firepower found its mark with alarming accuracy, decimating the defenders even in their most concealed refuges. Sewers, once thought to be havens, became tombs as the cruisers bombed the exits, burying those hiding within under rubble. Visibility within the city was reduced to a mere 50 meters, and with communications cut, the defenders resorted to sending signal soldiers on foot, relying on memory to navigate to nearby garrisons. However, the fog concealed not just the Separatist army's movements, but also the deadly Kali assassins, who mercilessly hunted down these messengers, ensuring the defenders remained in disarray. Even the sky offered no respite, as the cruiser's bombardment continued unabated. In one harrowing instance, a communications team had barely embarked on their mission when a Dreadnought-class cruiser, as if guided by an unseen eye, adjusted its aim and obliterated them in an instant, leaving no trace behind. The commander of the Republic's garrison could only speculate that the Separatists possessed some means of observing their movements through the fog, a capability akin to an all-seeing eye that pierced through illusions to discern their every action. In reality, it was not through sight, but through precise calculations that the Separatists dominated the battlefield, rendering the defenders' efforts futile. Isolated and overwhelmed, the local defenders were systematically defeated by the invading forces of the Fourth Civilization. The surrounding troops, paralyzed by uncertainty and fear, could do nothing but listen to the distant sounds of gunfire and explosions, utterly clueless about the enemy's whereabouts or numbers. The night the plan was initiated, the Fourth Civilization's army advanced 10 kilometers, capturing strategic buildings and annihilating tens of thousands of Republic defenders. Even as daylight improved visibility slightly, the defenders found themselves unable to devise an effective counter-strategy, suffering loss after loss. Governor Wilhoff Tarkin of the 18th Army, commanding from a distant manor, learned of the dire situation and, in consultation with his general staff, decided to launch a counteroffensive. Rallying a force of 160,000 troops within Elixiang City, they initiated their operation at noon on the fourth day, hoping to break through the enemy's blockade. However, their efforts were anticipated with chilling accuracy by the mathematicians Ling Liang and Ji Wen. As the breakout force charged, they were met by a ferocious and bloodthirsty army, the Injury, who, alongside a three-dimensional bombardment from the sky, turned the battlefield into a scene of unimaginable horror. In the open field, the Injoli forces launched a ferocious assault. While the Republic Army might have stood a chance in the narrow confines of urban combat, where the terrain worked to their advantage, they found themselves woefully unprepared for a confrontation in such an exposed environment. Without the support of armored units, the Republic forces were at a severe disadvantage against the Injoli. The outcome of this mismatch was devastatingly clear: massacre. Wilhoff Tarkin, overseeing the operation from a command post within a manor, witnessed the unfolding disaster through live battlefield feeds. The scenes of carnage and utter despair were too much even for him. After just 10 minutes, he could no longer bear to watch and turned off the video. Leaning heavily on the table, he took several deep breaths to compose himself before making a grim assessment. Elixiang City won't last much longer, he declared with a heavy heart. Once the Separatists extricate themselves from the mire of Elixiang, they'll soon realize I'm not among the fallen, and when they do, they'll scour the globe for me. Hiding will be impossible. Determined to evade capture, Tarkin made a decisive command. Contact the Republic's military forces. We need to initiate the escape plan ahead of schedule. I must get out of here at all costs. Please note, this narrative is part of a larger story hosted on the Apex Novel Network, known for its rapid update frequency. Vol 2, Chapter 198, Runaway Monster. In the year 21 BBY, on August 21st, the city of Elixiang, the capital of planet Eliadu, found itself ensnared in the dark night plan of the Fourth Civilization. This plan, which could only be described as nefarious, plunged the city's defense system into complete chaos and isolation. Parts of it had already been seized by the Fourth Civilization, and the city's fall seemed inevitable. After their attempts to break the siege failed, the defenders of Elixiang City abandoned all hope and fantasies, resigning themselves to their positions and awaiting death. Their ultimate goal was to eliminate as many of the separatist forces as possible, even if it meant taking down just one more robot. Above Elixiang City, on the bridge of the Dreadnought heavy cruiser, the command center of the Fourth Civilization Army, a staff officer hurried over to General Ling Liang, presenting her with some images and videos via a universal tool. General Ling, our personnel encountered indoctrinators in the RT-1117 area, he reported. Ling Liang's brow furrowed. The instructor is still operational? I was under the impression it had been neutralized by the Republic's defenders shortly after the war commenced. It appears not, the staff officer replied. The secret weapon provided by the governor has proven to be resilient against conventional firepower. However, the instructor seems to have gone rogue, failing to respond to any of our commands. Based on its activity zone, we believe it's responsible for the swift elimination of several of our orbital airborne robot squads. And what's the feedback from our frontline troops? Ling Liang inquired further. As long as we steer clear of it, it doesn't pose a problem. After all, as the attackers, our operational range is much more flexible. Moreover, by making noise, we've managed to use the indoctrinators to our advantage, leading them to destroy several of the Republic's defensive fire points. So far, it hasn't interfered with our plans. However, we must eventually address this issue, the staff officer explained. Ling Liang nodded thoughtfully. It explains the discrepancies in my calculations. Now it's clear that the instructor is the cause. She turned sharply and commanded, cross-reference the instructor's potential activity range with the areas where we previously encountered calculation errors. If there's any overlap, it confirms that the instructor is the source of our miscalculations. Then, adjust the formula and recalculate. Understood. It's already in progress, a Jiwan mathematician responded. Shortly after, the mathematician presented the recalculated results. With the instructor's influence now accounted for, we have a much clearer understanding of the enemy's remaining forces' deployment and tactics. However, there's a significant issue. Tarkin isn't in Ilixiang City, is he? Ling Liang stated more than asked, unsurprised. Correct, the Jiwan mathematician replied, his tone carrying a hint of surprise, though his species' unique facial structure masked any expression. This was to be expected, Ling Liang remarked. While Tarkin may not fear death, he would certainly refuse to meet his end in Eliadu in such a manner. There are still events he must witness. This aligns with the governor's assessment. Moreover, had he been astute enough, he likely would have begun planning his departure from Ilixiang City the moment we captured the satellite, establishing an independent command center elsewhere. Then why continue with this operation? The staff officer began, clearly puzzled. Ling Liang responded with a calm indifference. We must prioritize our objectives. Our target is planet Eliadu, not Tarkin. Securing the planet is our primary goal. Only then will we pursue Tarkin across the galaxy, aiming to capture him and present him before the governor. She stood, activating the holographic battlefield map, and concluded, report the instructor's malfunction to the governor. On August 22nd, the city of Ilixiang had fallen into chaos. Over 80% of its territory was now under the control of the Fourth Civilization, with only a few areas still holding out against the invaders. An Apod 33 transport ship soared above the city, where the black smoke that once obscured the sky had largely cleared, revealing the extent of the devastation below. The once thriving metropolis was now a landscape of ruin, with collapsed buildings littering the skyline, flames engulfing what remained, and thick smoke rising into the air. The scent of charred ruins and gunpowder filled the atmosphere, mingled with the unmistakable odor of death. The conflict had taken a heavy toll on the city's inhabitants. Soldiers and civilians alike had perished, with the death toll exceeding 20 million. The 18th Army's failure to evacuate the civilians had left over 70 million people trapped in the city when the war erupted. Despite the Fourth Civilization's claim of not targeting civilians, the relentless bombardment had resulted in countless civilian casualties. Survivors, desperate for aid, peeked from their hiding spots, hoping for food from the soldiers or even the robots of the Fourth Civilization. Yet, amidst the ongoing conflict, their pleas went unnoticed. As the transport ship flew lower, some civilians emerged, waving frantically, mistaking it for a supply vessel. However, the robot piloting the ship remained indifferent, following the commands of its passenger, a figure shrouded in a black cloak and emanating an aura of darkness, Darth Marthael. The ship hovered over a park, now reduced to ashes and littered with bodies. Amidst the carnage, a monstrous creature, towering over 5 meters tall, feasted on the corpses. Its presence prompted Darth Marthael to assess the situation quickly, recognizing the creature as an educator, a monster gone rogue. With a sinister chuckle, he remarked on the creature's failure to match the prowess of a Jedi Knight, despite the resources poured into its creation. Without hesitation, Darth Marthael leaped from the ship, landing with a thunderous impact. He confronted the grotesque monster, dismissing it as nothing more than a being of hatred and instinct. As the creature charged, Darth Marthael effortlessly evaded, revealing several black flowers in his hand, Murakami orchids, a key to controlling the Dryer virus. With a flick of his wrist, he used the dark side of the Force to disperse the orchids into dust, directing them into the creature through every orifice. Confused, the monster staggered before collapsing lifelessly to the ground. Transfer the engineering vehicle, Darth Marthael commanded, already considering the next phase of his plan. His actions, cold and calculated, demonstrated the ruthless efficiency of the Fourth Civilization's campaign and the dark ambitions of its agents. Place it aboard the spacecraft and dispatch it to the planet Keshal. Das Missile activated the communicator, summoned a nearby squad of soldiers, and, after issuing his orders, pivoted to stride down the thoroughfare of Ilixiang City, heading towards the administrative center. In this castle-like administrative hub, over 20,000 soldiers of the Republic remained stationed. This fortress, which had once stymied Gabriel Tosh's efforts, was now in the throes of its last stand. Vol 2, Chapter 1099, For Whom? On the bridge of the Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser, Ling Liang was taken aback by the sudden appearance of Darth Marthael behind him. "It's always Lord Mortal Angel," he said, a hint of surprise in his voice. Darth Marthael nodded, his voice carrying a tone of approval. "Elixiang City seems to be under control. Very good. In the battle for the Eliadu system, you first orchestrated a hyperspace storm, intensified the stellar flare, and then executed the night operation. Your plan led to the capture of Elixiang City in less than a month, which is commendable." Ling Liang nodded in acknowledgement, his demeanor calm. "The success of my plan was made possible by the collective effort and sacrifice of the entire army," he stated, attributing the victory to his team. Darth Marthael, with his hands clasped behind his back, gazed out the window at the still smoldering city. "After this victory, you will be promoted to General of the Army," he declared in a deep voice. Ling Liang saluted, his voice firm. "I will not fail in my duties. Next, I will retreat to focus on my practices. The Eliadu galaxy will be under your command. Severance Tan, I have other plans for him." "Yes, Lord Marthael," Ling Liang responded, understanding the weight of his new responsibilities. 20 BY, August 26th. The city of Erixiang, the capital of the planet Eliadu, had fallen. It was a devastating war. The Galactic Republic's defenders suffered over 1.7 million casualties, while civilian deaths exceeded 22 million. The Fourth Civilization Army also paid a steep price, with more than 400,000 robots destroyed and over 20,000 soldiers lost. Following the capture of Elixiang, the Fourth Civilization Fleet issued a global ultimatum, demanding the immediate surrender of all cities on Eliadu under threat of total destruction. Additionally, they offered a reward of 100 million credits for information leading to the capture of Wilhoff Tarkin, the governor of the Republic's 18th Army. To alleviate the severe famine on Eliadu, the Fourth Civilization dispatched transport ships to relocate populations from the hardest-hit cities to the satellite of Eliadu. However, their focus remained on the ongoing war. On August 31st, in Coruscant, the Galactic Republic's capital, a signal trooper received a message confirming Eliadu's surrender. However, the officer in charge instructed him to report otherwise, claiming Eliadu was still resisting. The trooper was then promised retirement with a sergeant's allowance for his silence. In the Galactic Parliament building, Speaker Schiff Palpatine discussed with Jedi Master Mace Windu the Council's debate over sending food aid versus military support to combat separatism. Windu expressed frustration with Palpatine's unilateral decisions, highlighting the tension between the Jedi Order and the Galactic Council's leadership. This chapter reveals the complexities and moral dilemmas faced by those involved in the war, from the strategic decisions on the battlefield to the political maneuverings within the Galactic Republic. Amidst the ongoing trivial disputes, the military and civilians of planet Eliador valiantly stand against the separatist onslaught, enduring significant losses. Shiv Palpatine, addressing the Council, expressed his frustration. "You often accuse me of arrogance within the Council, yet the reality stands stark before us. From the incident on Naboo 12 years ago to the current crisis on Eliadu, the Council's shortcomings remain unchanged. Yet we still seek victory." As he spoke, Palpatine activated the holographic projector, displaying communication logs, and reported, "Elixiang City has fallen into enemy hands, with over 80% of the area now occupied. We've lost all contact with Governor Tarkin. The situation on Eliadu is dire. We must act swiftly." Master Windu, with a stern expression, interjected, "I've heard rumors that Eliadu has already been conquered." Palpatine responded with a weary smile, "Such rumors circulate daily. Eliadu's fall, the occupation of the Daron system, even rebellions on Coruscant. However, our duty is to respond effectively. The hyperspace storm will persist for another 3 days. You've already gathered the fleet at Dakoner," Master Windu noted. "Planet Eliadu cannot withstand another 3 days, my friend," Palpatine replied, shaking his head. "Losing Eliadu means losing control over the Western Milky Way, a scenario we cannot afford. What plans do you propose under these circumstances?" Master Windu asked, frowning. Palpatine hesitated, When we attacked the model sector, Master Yoda was not. Out of the question, Palpatine, Master Windu interrupted angrily. You're aware of the toll opening the hyperspace channel took on Master Yoda. He's yet to fully recover. Palpatine raised his hands in a placating gesture. It's merely one of the options. I have no intention of forcing the issue. My aim is to push through a council-approved battle plan to dispatch a fleet to the Eliadu system, not merely supply ships. He sighed, adding, I hope for Master Yoda's swift recovery. The Republic is at a loss without him. This bill is bound to pass, isn't it? Master Windu, resigned to the political maneuvering, leaned forward and asked through clenched teeth, You wield considerable influence over the council. Palpatine offered a slight smile. Until the bill is officially voted on, the outcome remains uncertain. In the Jedi Temple's High Council chamber, Master Yoda declared, For the Eliadu galaxy, I will go now. Open the hyperspace channel. This is madness, Master Yoda. Your health, Master Windu attempted to interject. The war with the Sith, if this is... Master Yoda began, his voice trailing off. He gave Master Windu a profound look, his eyes filled with complexity, then silently turned and walked out of the chamber, leaning on his cane. It's not worth it, Master Yoda, Master Windu called after him. For the billions on planet Eliadu, Master Yoda replied without turning back, it is worth it. Volume 2, Chapter 1100, The Next Stage. In the year 21 BBY, on August 32nd, the Galactic Republic's 20th Army continued its assault on the Yago-Dur galaxy. Despite their efforts, they faced significant challenges due to the complex environment of the Trisolaran galaxy and the formidable firepower of two Aganev-class interstellar bases. With the construction of a third and fourth Aganev-class base underway, Master Shakong, the commander of the Republic fleet, found himself in a difficult position, unable to make any significant progress. The Yago-Dur system, while strategically challenging, was not deemed critical enough to warrant a larger military investment, leading to a prolonged stalemate. The daily routine of firing a few shots had become almost ceremonial. However, a subtle change occurred that day. An officer from the detection department approached Master Shakong with news of a large-scale hyperspace fluctuation detected by their sensors. It appeared that the Separatists had dispatched a fleet, a move that puzzled and concerned Master Shakong. Despite the departure of this fleet, the Separatist defensive fleet's numbers remained unchanged. Determined to uncover the Separatists' intentions, Master Shakong ordered a full-scale attack on the Yago-Dur planet's defense line within the hour. Meanwhile, on the planet Eliadu, Lingliang reported to Darth Marthael, also known as Lord Dead Angel, that Tarkin remained elusive despite efforts to locate him using the Force. Darth Marthael reassured Lingliang, acknowledging his average talent in the Force and advising him not to overexert himself. With a hyperspace storm subsiding, Darth Marthael prepared for the challenges ahead, entrusting the defense of the Eliadu galaxy to Lingliang. Declaring the galaxy as the territory of the Fourth Civilization, Lingliang saluted decisively. Darth Marthael then met with Admirals Severance Tan and Matt Horner aboard the Chaos Rucker Hook-class battleship, the flagship guarding the outer space orbit. Both admirals expressed their honor in serving the Fourth Civilization, though Severance Tan's response was more hesitant. Darth Marthael assigned Matt Horner to oversee Planet Haven, ensuring the security of the 19th Army's occupied area. Severance Tan was instructed to head to Port Palment to receive her new flagship, where Count Dooku awaited her. Her mission was to stabilize the galaxy's eastern border during the Galactic Republic's anticipated counterattack. This chapter sets the stage for the next phase of the conflict, highlighting the strategic maneuvers and preparations of both the Galactic Republic and the forces of the Fourth Civilization. The characters' actions and motivations are driven by their allegiance and the overarching goals of their respective factions, setting the scene for the unfolding battles and challenges ahead. Push it to the Laxus galaxy, then you don't have to come back, Darth Marthael commanded. Severance Tan met Darth Marthael's gaze firmly and replied, I prefer to stay in the Eliadu system and stabilize the battlefront here. Darth Marthael sneered in response, Are you sure you can handle this kind of relentless battle? I just don't want to leave, Severance Tan stated simply. Very well, then earn this right for yourself, Darth Marthael retorted. With those final words, he turned and strode off the bridge, not bothering to look back. On the night of August 22nd, roughly 6 hours after Darth Marthael's departure, the Galactic Republic initiated its operations. Master Yoda himself arrived in the Darkharnel galaxy, wielding his formidable power to stabilize the raging hyperspace storm that was on the brink of chaos, thereby rendering the hyperspace channel navigable for a brief period. Seizing this fleeting window of opportunity, the Galactic Republic fleet assembled near the planet Darkhanel dispatched 18 Chaser-class battlecruisers towards the Eliadu system. Despite being taken aback by the Galactic Republic fleet's premature arrival, Severance Tan had not slackened her defy, NSEAs. She promptly rallied her fleet to counterattack. However, the Republic fleet did not engage with Severance Tan's forces. Instead, they made a beeline for the planet Eliadu and managed to land hundreds of transport ships on its surface. Severance Tan seized this chance to inflict severe damage on the Republic fleet. Concurrently, Ling Liang led the ground forces to encircle the Republic troops that had landed, ensuring their eventual defeat was only a matter of time. However, amidst the chaos, a seemingly inconsequential event unfolded in a remote village in the southern hemisphere of planet Eliadu. A spaceship ascended silently into the sky, cloaked itself in invisibility mid-air, and slipped away from the planet. Taking advantage of the ongoing conflict, it left Eliadu's atmosphere and entered a hyperspace channel undetected. Meanwhile, Darth Marthael had already reached planet Celia. He disembarked from his spacecraft and made his way to a clandestine safe house nestled within the castle district of Celia. 2 figures cloaked in sackcloth awaited his arrival and rose to greet him as he entered. One was a fair-skinned Zabrak woman, and the other a middle-aged man with a beard. Darth Marthael's gaze lingered on the bearded man, and with a mocking tone he said, "I knew you would return, Obi-Wan Kenobi." End of this chapter. Vol 2, Chapter 1101, A New Beginning. In the year 20 BY, on September 1st, within the vast expanse of the Eliadu galaxy, a hyperspace storm that had raged for over 3 months finally calmed. The subsidence of the storm made the hyperspace routes around the Eliadu galaxy navigable once again for large-scale fleets. Almost immediately, the Galactic Republic mobilized a formidable force, assembling 50 Chaser-class battlecruisers on the planet Darkhanel. Additionally, more than 30 Aquitaines-class light cruisers made a bold incursion into the Eliadu system. Concurrently, the long-prepared backup force of the Fourth Civilization made its entrance. Unlike the Republic's fleet, predominantly composed of battleships, the Fourth Civilization's reinforcements showcased a diverse array of vessels. Dozens of Raz-class heavy engineering ships, hundreds of Javelin-class guided missile frigates, Brown Bear-class heavy destroyers, and Guard-class anti-aircraft destroyers. This strategic composition was aimed at bolstering defenses, continuing the construction of more defense systems, and establishing additional Agonev-class interstellar bases. The 2 fleets clashed fiercely in the space near Eliadu's satellite. Despite the ongoing battle, the planetary shield of the Eliadu satellite remained intact, playing a crucial role in the Fourth Civilization's defense strategy. Amidst the chaos of war, a ceremony took place against the backdrop of the starry cosmos, with the ongoing battle serving as a dramatic setting. General Xian Hui, the commander-in-chief of the Fourth Civilization's army, and General Qi Jian, the chief of staff, stood before a gathered crowd. They directed their attention to Ling Liang, who stood with a dignified posture and a solemn expression. Major General Ling Liang, General Xian Hui began, "Your strategic planning of the hyperspace storm operation was instrumental in securing the Eliadu galaxy. Your advice and leadership in the occupation of Eliadu's satellite and planet were pivotal in achieving our combat objectives. The Fourth Civilization's Ministry of Defense and the Supreme Military Command have decided to promote you to the rank of general in the Fourth Civilization Army." Ling Liang saluted sharply and responded with conviction, "I will not disappoint the trust placed in me by my homeland." General Qi Jian continued, "By the decree of Tang Xiao, the supreme leader of the Fourth Civilization and the governor of Dawn Planet, the Fourth Civilization will establish the Sisvena sector, with the Eliadu galaxy at its core. This new sector will include the 18th Army of the Galactic Republic, with the planet Eliadu as its capital. And you, Lingliang, will serve as the governor of this sector. Lingliang, momentarily taken aback by the appointment, quickly regained his composure. Governor of the Star Region? He echoed, seeking confirmation. That's correct, Qijian affirmed. Mr. Tang Xiao believes in your ability to oversee the Eliadu galaxy comprehensively. Do not let him down, nor the people you are sworn to protect. Lingliang saluted once more, his voice resolute. I will fulfill my duties to the best of my abilities. Following the successful occupation of the Eliadu system, the Fourth Civilization promptly reorganized its administrative divisions. Alongside the Model Sector in Volgograd Kanedi and the Haven Sector established in the 19th Army Region of the Republic, the Sisvena Sector was inaugurated. The sector's name was derived from the subsector where the Eliadu galaxy is situated. Due to his exceptional leadership in the Battle of the Eliadu galaxy, Major General Ling Liang of the Fourth Civilization Army was not only promoted to general, but also appointed as the governor of the Sisvena sector. This decision came as a surprise to many. Despite nearly half of this star area remaining under the control of the Galactic Republic, the sector boasted significant assets. These included the industrial world of Sarist Planet, the support of the Sothrope Company, and Malistar Planet, a world known for its advanced industries, akin to Gemma Planet. The establishment of the Sisvena sector marked a new beginning in the strategic landscape of the galaxy, with Ling Liang at the helm, ready to navigate the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, the commercial planet Ayadu 6, the bustling outer ring traffic hub Terminus, and the martial world of Tiblin stood as testaments to the formidable power vested in Ling Liang. Among these, Sarest, the industrial powerhouse of the Milky Way's outer ring, despite its lack of direct affiliation, had forged a strong alliance with the South Rob Company, positioning it just behind the galaxy's fourth group of super enterprises in terms of influence and capability. The Fourth Civilization's Fleet A, under the command of Matt Horner, found itself in a pivotal transition. Horner, having entrusted his fleet to Ling Liang for the defense of the Eliadu system, was left without a command. Following Tang Xiao's directive, he embarked on the reformation of his A fleet within the Haven sector. This strategic move paved the way for Horner's most significant promotion yet. He was appointed as the Admiral and Commander-in-Chief of the Fourth Civilization Navy, filling the vacancy left by the late Igor Zavalov. The reshuffling of military personnel didn't stop there. Lin Nanyi, a young general who had distinguished himself in battle, along with Major General Malcolm Granger, a newly awakened Air Force general known for his expertise in Air Force tactics from Command and Conquer generals, were sent back to Dawn Planet for advanced training. Their mission was to prepare for the command of a new fleet, ready to be deployed to the forefront of battle. Meanwhile, the Fourth Civilization's Army Department initiated a series of personnel changes. Lieutenant General Cheng Shitao, after recovering from his injuries, was promoted to General of the Army and assigned to the Haven Star region as its deputy governor and highest military commander. Major General Xiao Guangguo was elevated to lieutenant general for his valor in the Marathar Planet campaign and tasked with leading the army forces in the Sisvena Star area. Lieutenant General Dai Hongkui and Major General Tang Wensi, a laser specialist recently integrated into the Fourth Civilization's military, were dispatched to Dawn Planet to establish a new army unit. Amidst these strategic appointments and the reorganization of military and administrative zones within the Fourth Civilization, one figure seemed to be overlooked. However, this was far from the truth. On the outer rim of the Milky Way, at Port Permant, a Lambda-class shuttle emerged from the hyperspace channel, gliding over the vast shipbuilding base and space dock on the outskirts. The construction site was a hive of activity, with dozens of Shenyi-class destroyers taking shape and hundreds of monster-class battlecruisers in various stages of assembly. Robots and engineering ships swarmed over these leviathans, piecing together the formidable vessels. The shuttle navigated to the central platform of the shipbuilding base, where a hangar entrance beckoned. It landed gracefully, its wings folding upwards as the hatch opened. Admiral Severance Tan of the Fourth Civilization stepped out, her expression stern and contemplative. Escorted by a ceremonial robot, Tan made her way to the command center, where Count Dooku, the supreme leader of the Confederation of Independent Systems, awaited her arrival. Upon seeing Tan, Dooku greeted her with a laugh. "Welcome, General Tan. Today, I present to you the newest and sharpest blade forged by our Confederation of Independent Systems. Only someone of your caliber is worthy to wield this formidable weapon and lead us to victory against the battleships of the Galactic Republic." "Then, I've arrived," Severance Tan stated calmly. The grandeur of Count Dooku's palace remained unmarred by such impertinence. After all, Severance Tan's notorious temper was as well known as her exceptional strategic prowess. He gestured expansively and announced, "Welcome to your new flagship, the second vessel of the Conqueror-class battleships, the Doom. Please remember to visit our website for the fastest updates." Vol 2, Chapter 1102, The Confused Star. "Conqueror class? You mean like the Fang?" Severance Tan's interest was piqued, a hint of surprise in her voice. "Yes, the Doom is of the same Conqueror class as the Fang, marking it as your new flagship," Count Dooku explained. "The plan for the Conqueror class involves the construction of 5 ships, with 3 more currently under construction. The Doom, being the second ship, started construction earlier, so its technical specifications are nearly identical to those of the Fang." Severance Tan nodded in understanding. She recalled the massive central platform that the shuttle had flown over upon her arrival, not realizing then that it was the entrance to the shipbuilding base, housing the 4,825-meter-long super battleship, the Doom. The sheer length of this battleship was staggering, requiring an ordinary person approximately an hour to run from bow to stern, a feat that, if attempted through certain shortcuts, would likely result in death along the way. Although the Doom did not match the 14,100-meter length of the Ragnarov-class Titan battleship Plague, which Severance had commanded before, it still posed a significant threat. The Plague, despite its size, was essentially a colossal brick in space, its construction deemed a waste of resources by the Fourth Civilization, with no plans for its reconstruction post-war. In contrast, the Conqueror-class battleship represented a more formidable challenge to the Galactic Republic fleet than the Plague ever did. The Plague's arsenal, including more than a dozen rounds for its super electromagnetic cannon, was impressive, but not as effective against the more agile Galactic Republic fleet, which lacked high-value targets. However, the situation had changed with the introduction of the 8,000-meter-long Commander II-class dreadnoughts, prompting the Confederation of Independent Systems to seek new countermeasures, such as the Conqueror-class battleship. Despite the disparity in industrial capabilities between the two factions, entrusting the Doom to Severance Tan signified the Confederation's last-ditch effort to leverage their most powerful asset. A smile crept onto Severance Tan's lips. "Destruction. Hehe, this will be my new flagship." The Galactic Republic is gearing up for a massive counterattack, and we've already lost at least half of our mobile fleet in the Darren system. You'll lead our forces until we can complete our military reforms and introduce new ships to the battlefield, maintaining a constant threat to the Galactic Republic's fleet, Count Dooku stated. "Ah, I like the sound of that." Severance Tan responded, tapping on the console. "Thank you, Count Dooku. This is the recognition you deserve, General Tan. Your legendary achievements and the classic battles you've led are worthy of inclusion in our Naval Academy's textbooks. Only a commander of your caliber is suited to helm a battleship as powerful as the Conqueror," Count Dooku said, smiling. "Very well," Severance Tan replied, taking her place in the captain's seat at the center of the bridge. "I've always admired you, General Tan. With you at the helm, the Confederation of Independent Systems can extend its reach across the galaxy," Count Dooku added, his words laced with a hint of flattery. "Representing the Confederation of Independent Galaxies has always been my mission. This time, I'll make sure the Galactic Republic feels my presence once again." "Ha!" Severance Tan laughed, skillfully deflecting Count Dooku's flattery. The massive dock at the heart of Port Palmont began to stir. The colossal 10,000-meter hatch split into two, powered by immense force, and the battleship Doom slowly ascended, setting a course for the asteroid belt. After several successful weapon tests, the Doom returned to port and Count Dooku departed from the battleship with a smile, entrusting the new flagship to Severance Tan. However, no one could discern the thoughts hidden within his heart. Once Count Dooku had left, Severance Tan's expression immediately darkened. She attempted to contact Tang Xiao using her communicator, but received no response. In frustration, she crushed the device in her hand, causing sharp fragments to pierce her palm and blood to trickle down her wrist. Why? Severance Tan muttered to herself, her teeth clenched in anger. From the moment she arrived in the Fourth Civilization and was appointed by Tang Xiao as an admiral to lead the fleet, she had been filled with pride. Her victories on the battlefield, the fear she instilled in her enemies, and the praise she received from the Confederation were all outcomes she had anticipated. She had always considered herself the preeminent general of the Fourth Civilization, having executed flawless raids on Salabin and Cato Neimoidia, feats she believed no one else in the galaxy could achieve. However, in Tang Xiao's presence, her pride crumbled. Tang Xiao had become a constant source of pain and fear, overshadowing her achievements and victories. During the battle for the Blade Fleet, Tang Xiao's presence on the battlefield and his cruel behavior instilled in her a fear so intense that she felt utterly powerless. This fear was unlike anything she had experienced, even in her personal relationships. Initially, Severance Tan thought Tang Xiao's actions were a test of her loyalty, a way for her to demonstrate her unwavering commitment. But Tang Xiao remained indifferent. She struggled to understand her place in Tang Xiao's heart and how she fit into the broader scheme of the Fourth Civilization. The situation worsened with the emergence of Lingliang during the battle for the Iliadu Galaxy. Lingliang's innovative strategies and exceptional mathematical skills earned him the title of hero in the conquest of the Iliadu Galaxy. Severance Tan's hostility towards Lingliang was not personal, but stemmed from the realization that Lingliang represented the path she believed Tang Xiao wanted her to follow. She felt replaced, undervalued, and disposable. These feelings intensified when Tang Xiao assigned her to Port Palmont, making her feel as though her world was collapsing. Even being given command of the Doom, the second ship of the Conqueror-class battleships, did little to alleviate her sense of despair. As a high-ranking military commander of the Fourth Civilization, she knew that the Doom, despite its power, was not the pinnacle of the Confederation of Independent Systems' naval might, ranking only second to its predecessor, the Fang Fang. Haunted by Tang Xiao's parting words, "You are far from his opponent now. You will still die," Severance Tan's frustration and despair culminated in a punch against the wall. Volume 2, Chapter 1103, the hermit Darth Marthael regarded the two figures before him with an icy demeanor. His gaze first settled on the middle-aged man with a thick beard. "I told you you would return, Obi-Wan Kenobi," he stated, his voice devoid of warmth. Obi-Wan Kenobi offered a slight bow, a gesture of respect, yet remained silent. His hands were concealed beneath his cuffs, and his expression was unreadable. Darth Marthael's attention shifted to the Zabrak woman beside Obi-Wan, her skin fair and her stance uneasy, the former Jedi Knight, Maris Bruder. "You were Shaak Ti's apprentice?" he inquired, his voice cold as the dark side of the Force emanated from him like an endless, dark vortex. Maris Bruder, already drenched in cold sweat, fell to her knees at his question. The terrifying presence of Darth Marthael's dark side made the thought of resistance flee from her mind. Yes, Shaak Ti was my master. I have come to understand the power of the dark side, and I am willing to embrace it. Please, teach me the essence of darkness," she pleaded. Darth Marthael laughed mockingly. "The essence of darkness, and you think you are worthy? I do not dare to assume," Maris stammered. "My apprentice, Darth Lilim, is about to journey to the Iliadu Galaxy. You may accompany her as a servant. Now, leave my sight," Darth Marthael commanded dismissively. "My lord, but," they said. Maris Bruder began, but the moment she spoke, an invisible force constricted her throat, silencing her. She was levitated by the unseen power, gasping for air as she struggled in vain. A talkative servant does not live long. "Remember that," Darth Marthael warned darkly. Maris Bruder, unable to speak, nodded frantically. With a flick of his wrist, Darth Marthael sent her flying. She was still tumbling through the air when he remotely activated the door, casting her out. Turning his attention back to Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Marthael spoke slowly. You are uncertain if Palpatine is the Sith Lord, and you dare not confront him. Yet, you are wise enough to see that both the war and the state of the Galactic Republic are spiraling out of control. That is why you are here. You are correct, Dark Angel, Obi-Wan Kenobi replied calmly. I seek answers. A sneer curled the corner of Darth Marthael's mouth. Oh, the answers. A Jedi Knight seeking answers from a Sith Lord? I wish to understand the future of the galaxy. Obi-Wan pressed, his gaze lowered. Darth Marthael burst into laughter. The future of the galaxy? That's not what truly concerns you. Are you too proud to ask what you really want to know? His laughter ceased abruptly, replaced by a cold command. Before I expel you, ask your true question. Taking a deep breath, Obi-Wan Kenobi asked, I seek your guidance. What is the future of the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order? The future lies in the hands of many, but not within the Galactic Republic or the Jedi Order, Darth Marthael responded cryptically. If Darth Sidious is indeed Palpatine, I see no path to victory, Obi-Wan admitted. But you are not of Darth Sidious's ilk. Under the rule of two, a Sith Lord may tolerate multiple apprentices, but never multiple masters. It seems Master Yoda has shared much about the Sith from the Jedi archives before sending you here, Darth Marthael sneered. Was he not concerned that such knowledge might tempt you towards the dark side? Ignoring the jibe, Obi-Wan continued. To combat Darth Sidious, you must have made extensive preparations. We are willing to offer our assistance within our capabilities. To eliminate Darth Sidious, Obi-Wan Kenobi mused aloud. And what if Palpatine wasn't Darth Sidious? Darth Marthael posed the question rhetorically. Compared to other potential catastrophic outcomes, this would be a minor inconvenience, even if it inadvertently harms the Speaker of the Republic. Obi-Wan Kenobi responded with a calm determination. Everything we do is for the survival of the Galactic Republic. Darth Marthael laughed heartily at this. The Jedi Order is truly fascinating. Do you not see how deeply entangled you are in politics, believing yourselves to be the ultimate warriors? Without waiting for a response, Darth Marthael turned away, his voice taking on a serious tone. You seek answers, and I can provide them. However, my knowledge is not freely given. You must first prove your loyalty to me. This was to be expected, Obi-Wan acknowledged. Darth Marthael walked over to his desk, opened a drawer, and retrieved an ancient-looking mask. He tossed it to Obi-Wan, instructing, Wear this, cast aside your identity and your past, and devote yourself to my service. In time, I will reveal to you the future of the Galactic Republic, the Jedi Order, and the Confederation of Independent Systems. Obi-Wan examined the mask handed to him. It was a pure gray, seemingly crafted from bone, and bore the visage of a bearded old man with an expressionless face. The mask felt oddly warm to the touch, its age evident in its design. Closing his eyes and taking a deep breath, Obi-Wan made his decision clear. I am prepared to serve and fulfill your wishes. However, I have one condition. I will not raise my sword against other Jedi Knights. Agreed, Darth Marthael responded without hesitation. With no further doubts, Obi-Wan donned the mask. Darth Marthael declared, From this moment forward, you are known as the Hermit. Obi-Wan, now the Hermit, bowed deeply, his voice altered by the mask to sound older and more stable. I renounce all vanity, power, and wealth, dedicating myself to the pursuit of truth and enlightenment. Though I choose a path of solitude, it is not out of fear, but a desire to listen and understand. Darth Marthael observed him for a moment before breaking into laughter. I find it hard to believe you, Hermit. I will do whatever it takes to earn your trust, the Hermit replied, bowing his head. A simple task, Darth Marthael said. Defeat one individual in a lightsaber duel. The Hermit hesitated, reiterating, I cannot draw my sword against a Jedi Knight. She is no longer a Jedi. She has succumbed to the dark side, Darth Marthael explained, his smile taking on a sinister edge. Then I will accept this challenge, the Hermit stated firmly. Darth Marthael led the way to the training grounds, where a crowd had gathered in anticipation of the duel. At the center stood a figure clad in black, her slender silhouette and blonde hair hinting at her beauty even from behind. Upon seeing her, the Hermit's body involuntarily trembled, though his face remained hidden behind the mask. I thought you were already dead, he said, his voice shaking. The woman, identified as Siritaki, a former Jedi Knight who had fallen to the dark side, turned around with a look of confusion. I was dead. Now, I'm alive again. In a swift motion, the hermit unsheathed his green lightsaber and spun around, pointing it directly at Darth Marthael in a sudden act of defiance. Darth Marthael's smile was sinister as he presented a cruel choice. I will always leave the decision to you. Yes, this is precisely the choice I want you to make. Kill me, or kill her. He spread his arms wide, not reaching for his lightsaber, yet the terrifying power of the dark side was palpable in his hands, causing the very air around him to tremble. You're resorting to that trick again. You scorn life. You toy with death. The hermit bellowed in outrage. Exactly. Ha ha ha! I command death. I am the angel of death. The angel of death. Ha ha ha! Darth Marthael's laugh was chilling as he taunted. Come on, strike me down with your sword. Kill me. Ha ha ha! The hermit, fueled by anger, raised his lightsaber, his other hand forming a blade as he prepared to launch into the third sword technique, Soresu. However, his resolve faltered, and the lightsaber lowered as he turned to face Siritaki, who appeared lost and confused. Taki, what happened? He asked, his voice shaking. Siritaki shook her head, her confusion evident. Forgot. What happened? My name is Taki. The hermit trembled, his voice barely a whisper. Do you remember a man named Obi-Wan Kenobi? A flicker of recognition warmed Siritaki's expression, bringing a hint of color to her pale face. Though I've forgotten much, he is my dearest friend. No, I don't want to be just friends. I don't want to. Her smile was warm, yet tears streamed down her face. On a battlefield, I encountered a gravely injured Jedi, the hermit recounted, his voice trembling. He said his name was Obi-Wan Kenobi. He asked me to find a woman named Siritaki and tell her to forget him. Forget Obi-Wan Kenobi, because he's dead. Did you find her? Siritaki asked, her voice laced with hope. I told him I didn't know who Siritaki was. How could I find her? The hermit replied. Obi-Wan Kenobi described her as a woman whose beauty shone like the sun, so radiant, intelligent, and unmistakable. Siritaki, kill the old man before you, Darth Marthael commanded, his voice cold and unforgiving, unwilling to let the pair escape their fate. Yes! Without hesitation, Siritaki drew her blood-red lightsaber and struck at the hermit. Clash! The hermit's green lightsaber met Siritaki's with a violent collision of force. With a powerful push, the hermit repelled Siritaki and narrowly avoided her counterattack. He raised his lightsaber once more, adopting the stance of Soresu, and declared, Indeed, this beautiful woman, I have found her. On September 6th, 21 BBY, in the heart of the Galactic Republic on the planet Coruscant, the Parliament building was the scene of a heated debate. The galaxy's most influential lawmakers were divided over a proposal to invest additional funds in restoring the clone factory on Kamino. Supporters of the war effort argued passionately for the motion, believing that resuming clone trooper production was essential for victory. They contended that the major planets would have to make sacrifices and utilize their last reserves for the cause. Opponents, led by Bel Organa and Padme Amidala, argued vehemently against the bill, warning that it would devastate the Republic's finances and bring suffering to the governments and people of countless planets. The debate was intense, with neither side able to secure a majority. Speaker Shiv Palpatine announced a recess amidst the deadlock. However, during the break, a shocking event occurred. Anaconda Far, a prominent member of the opposition and representative of the planet Rhodia, was assassinated. Many believe that the architects behind the main war faction are orchestrating a conspiracy, leading to a surge of various conspiracy theories. This clamor has significantly diminished the influence and credibility of the main war faction's proponents.